I'm trying to make myself visible.
Oh, I'm seeing you.
Okay, great. I'm here.
Yes, good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you doing? All is well with you?
All is well. I always take it normal, one step at a time.
I know the feeling. I know the
Yeah.
feeling. The way things are these days, we have to take it one step at a time because
I
every day is
tell
a
you.
new issue in this country.
I tell you, man, never a dull moment in Trinidad, boy.
The well, I guess we can go straight into things until Richard join us.
Of course, of course. He'll be joining us shortly.
Yeah. I was looking at the newspaper. I like to look at the newsprint and see what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's an issue that maybe we could touch on it a little bit in the interim.
Yeah.
In 2013, there was this oil spill, gas leak in the library area. I know
Yes, I
you're a
remember
South
that.
man, so
Yes,
so
that's my
maybe
hometown. Yeah, that's my
yeah,
hometown. I know about that, yeah.
right. So 2 days ago, the Privy Council ruled in relation to an issue that touched and concern that oil spill. And this way
Yeah?
we put it in context for our listeners.
Mm-hmm.
In 2013, Petrotrin, as it then was,
Mm-hmm.
there was a leak and there was oil spillage, or there's alleged to be have been oil spillage and spillings in on the beachfront area in the
Yeah.
water at times. And then there was this gas emission. So residents woke up one morning, from what I understand, this is in narrative, and they're smelling the contamination in the air. They would recognize that things aren't what it was yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And then when there was a further investigation, it seemed like there was some issue arising out of a leak at Petrotrin. The pipe fittings perhaps wasn't the way it should.
Yeah.
Structural issues.
Mm-hmm.
And what evolved out of that is that the residents would have suffered over a period of time.
Yes.
At least that's what the narrative of the judgment was reflecting.
Mm-hmm.
So they took court action against Petrotrin, and they took court action against the OSHA agency.
Mm-hmm.
So, like everything else, there's redress when it is people have grievances.
Mm-hmm.
And the matter went to the High Court and then in the Court of Appeal in Trinidad and Tobago, and then eventually to the Privy Council.
Yeah.
Um, what the listeners may need to understand is we as human beings enter into contracts every day, David.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we bring a workman over to do some work around the yard, and he ain't cut the grass in the way that you would want it, or as low as we would want it.
Yeah.
Or he probably get a fair job, he get the front of the place a nice facelift and get a wash down job to the back.
Yeah.
So when you're passing by, everything meets the eye and it looks good. But if it is,
Mm-hmm.
get out of your vehicle and get to the back of the yard, you see it's mischief. He left the tools spread all over the place, and he left some grass unkept, and he didn't pack it up properly, and he didn't dispose of the debris.
Yeah.
So in a situation like that, when it is you contract with an individual, um, the terms and conditions of the arrangement, whether it be an oral arrangement or a written arrangement, um, you have to know, as the person who did the hiring, examine the circumstances, examine the job spec, see that he followed the terms and conditions of the arrangement you made. So if you pay him to cut the lawn in the back, he had to cut the lawn in the front too.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All that is part of the arrangement, and then to dispose of the debris, not just to cut the grass and leave it there.
Yeah.
So what you do is, in a very informal way, you may come home there now and say, well, I'm pleased with what you did, and you pay him and you leave, or you tell him, you did the job halfway, just finish it off and I pay you and you're on your way.
Yeah.
But those are simple contracts.
Mm-hmm.
And those are things that we as human beings, we negotiate with our neighbors and with the workmen from time to time. And we do these things without incident all the time. But there's another duty that the public may have become aware of in another way through this library situation.
Yeah.
And that duty is companies and businesses owe a duty of care to persons who may not who may not have entered into a direct contractual relationship with he or she or them, as we see.
Yeah.
In other words, In other words, Petrotrin, in the eyes of the Labre people, owed what we may term in law a duty of care
Yeah.
to ensure that they whatever they do doesn't compromise the health and the safety of the residents in the community. In other words, they need to act, Petrotrin need to act in a responsible manner, mindful that they are people who enjoy the environment and who live in that community and ought to not be compromised in any way. And their enjoyment of what is there is for the community as a whole. That Petrotrin is simply a company that is state run, and they ought to be mindful of everyone.
Yep.
So in law, we have what we call redress under the law of tort, TORT. And that law of tort says that though there is no direct contractual relationship, once you as an individual can prove that the company or that someone generally, most of the times it would be some sort of business or somebody engaging in an activity that will impact on the environment as a whole. You need to be able to prove as a resident that the person owed you a duty of care, in this case, Petrotrin, and the duty of care would be a responsibility to conduct their business in a way that doesn't compromise the health and property and safety of the persons. So it doesn't compromise your constitutional right to life, liberty, and enjoyment of property by their actions. And once you can establish that duty exists, then the next step would be to show that you suffered loss and that they breached that duty. So in other words, the next step after establishing there's a duty is to show that the actions of Petrotrin was such that they breached the duty owed. Once you establish that there's a breach of the duty, you must show what loss you suffered for you to have redress.
Right.
So if there's a duty of care and there's a breach, but you suffered no loss, meaning that your health wasn't compromised, your property wasn't compromised, and in reality, you escaped unscathed,
Yeah.
then you haven't been able to establish the three limbs of the argument, and you may have no redress.
Right.
What happened is this, and it's instructive that the Privy Council ruled that the Labre environmental protectors, the body that was established in May of 2014, it would be. That body, the Labre environmental protectors, they was a special purpose body. They were created, or they became registered in such a way that it followed the incident. In other words, the spill, let's say the spill took place in July of this year.
Yeah.
The company only became established after that date.
Right.
So if it is, we were to put it in context, the oil spills from its pipelines, petroleum pipelines, it would have occurred somewhere around the middle of December 2013. And the Labre company came into existence after that date. So the issue that came up before the Privy Council, and it was already dealt with at the High Court and the Court of Appeal in Trinidad, was that the Labre environmental protectors, they did not suffer any loss directly as a body. They came into existence after the loss. In other words, you must show, David, that you actually suffered loss, and that environment protectors, Labre environment protectors, they did not and could not establish
That's right.
that they as an entity, as an organization that is registered, suffered any immediate loss. So when they went before the court, they were representing individuals who came under the umbrella of their organization. And then there were other residents who came in their individual right, meaning that, let us say you came on your own, not that you were part of that. And then Richard may have come on his own.
Yeah.
And some people decided, you know what, we can't afford to bring representation or bring a claim by ourselves. So we go and we align ourselves with the environment protectors, the organization, the registered organization, and have them bring the claim in our name.
Yeah.
But what the court ruled is, and this is where the ruling came, a lot of people who read about it may think, well, you know, Petrotrin escape from this issue, or they not liable or culpable in any way. it was not a culpability point made by the Privy Council 2 days ago. The
Right.
point was an issue of a procedural point. In order to proceed with this claim, the individuals, John, Paul, James, whoever they are free to bring the claim in their own right in relation to what they suffered, the individual damage that they suffered. But the Privy Council is saying that the environment protectors, the organization, they have no locus, as we say in law. In other words, they have no standing, or they have no, if we put it in street language, they have no purpose in this matter.
Yeah.
We don't recognize them as anybody who suffered a personal loss
Mm-hmm.
or personal loss in terms of property or in terms of person
Yeah.
that it may be required to bring a suit. So what was dismissed by the Privy Council is simply that library environmental protectors cannot represent or cannot bring a claim for breach of a duty of care against Petrotrin, nor could they establish that Petrotrin breached any duty, nor could they establish that they suffered any loss. So even if it is you can prove 2 of the 3 that a duty of care exists
Yeah.
and that there was a breach, you still have to go the extra mile and show, and what have I lost? And if you've lost nothing, it fails.
That's
And if
right.
it is you prove that there is a breach, um, the onus is still on you, the individual who bring the claim.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So let us say, David, you brought a claim. You must be able to show that you suffered the loss, and you must be able to establish that there was a breach.
Yeah.
So what Petrotrin did is they left, just like any legal team would tell you when it is you're a defendant before the court, you leave the claimant to strict proof of all they assert against you.
Yeah.
So Petrotrin never admitted that they mishandled the pipelines or they're responsible for the spills or anything. So the substantive issue remains open. In other words, by Petrotrin not conceding before the Privy Council on this procedural point that they were responsible or that they owed a duty, they
Yeah.
left that substantial point about whether they owe a duty and whether a breach took place and who suffered loss. They left that to be brought before the local court in Trinidad. And they, on the procedural issue, they maintain their position that they're not responsible. And that they held their point is library environment protectors, they don't recognize them as having any claim in this matter, that they don't have any lawful standing. And sometimes in law, having said that, sometimes in law, we need to interpret what we read in the newspaper properly, because some people may forget all that we just discussed there and jump to the conclusion that Petrotrin did no wrong, that the people in library suffered in some way and they get away scot-free. They didn't get away scot-free. That issue will be determined before the court on the substantive point of whether persons suffered individually or whether the environment suffered in some way in terms of the oil spill. That will be dealt with down the road. The procedural point is what was dealt with here. I hope that at least in that brief way, I was able to explain where we stand on that. Sometimes, the law has very different nuances. It's not as simple as I just described it. I gave you a synopsis of the facts.
Yeah.
Sometimes, in the past, a special purpose company, as the library environment protectors are, sometimes special purpose companies may be able to have establish some locus. For instance, one of the small arguments that the law lords raise is that we have in Trinidad and Tobago what we call the Civil Procedure Rules 1998. That is a way, in the same way that we have the Criminal Procedure Rules 2016. The Civil Procedure Rules, which preceded the Criminal Procedure Rules, it simply states a formulae when it is you're piloting a matter before the court. And there are ways of dealing with substantive issues from a procedural level, meaning that we may not need to get to the point where we need to establish duty of care and breach and who suffered loss.
Right.
If it is at first, we haven't been able to establish procedurally whether the persons who brought Petrotrin before the court has any standing to do so. So you could end the argument. The argument could pre-collapse.
Yeah.
In terms of, we don't need to get to that level yet. If it is, we could establish that the wrong person brought the claim. And this is where we were technically. Now, what they were saying is that in England, in their civil procedure rules, there's a little flexibility in the application of the law, and in Trinidad and Tobago, it's somewhat a little more rigid in terms of, in England, they would have made some allowances and say, okay, so we recognize that the library environment protectors they have no locus, they have no standing, but we could proceed with the other parties. So meaning the people who have locus, we will proceed with the claim and allow them to pilot their matter through. Um, they didn't do that in this instance. Our rules are so inflexible in that sense in terms of its interpretation that the laws made a note of that. Now, we are very critical of the Privy Council. Maybe there's something that we need to understand or perhaps touch on it that we could understand it even further. Yes, they say that the Privy Council is so rigid and out of touch with the realities of our local jurisprudence and the Caribbean and so on. But their application to the law tends to be without any prejudice at times, and it also tends to be to carry no bias. They have no axe to grind, and they have no reason to prefer a political entity as opposed to somebody else, or to be swayed by personal prejudices where they're partial to South people as opposed to North people.
Yeah.
They live in a different world, so they have no reason to feel in a particular way. So that doesn't mean to say that our judges here can't be independent and can't be objective and separate themselves from an issue. But in this little point here, what they were saying is that if this were England and the rules were different and the jurisprudence was a bit slightly different of a different temperature and color, then they may have been able to rule generally in relation to this matter and allow the other parties, the individual parties, the people who didn't fall under the umbrella of the library environment protectors to continue the claim on the procedural point. But like I said, the bottom line is some justice was served in the context of the other parties, the individuals and the parties who didn't fall under the library environment protectors, they will be able to continue in the matter.
Right.
Sometimes when you can't just join a party, when a matter is going before the court, sometimes you could ask that you be allowed to join in the claim down the road. For
Yeah.
instance, when in that express matter, remember about 2 years ago, um, the police executed a warrant on Express newspaper, that building, the establishment, the media house, and they went there and they were looking for documents. They said that the warrant they were executing, they were looking for specific documents because they believed that some sort of tipping off would have taken place. The quote on the newspaper,
Yeah.
as it relates to an article that was carried, was so direct. It seemed like the Express may have got into their possession or come to be in their possession with documents that only the police ought to have had, or somebody who had access or an eye on a police document that may have been supposed to be totally in the purview of the police ended up in the Express building. So they execute a warrant and went there to retrieve these documents. The
Yeah.
point I'm making is the Media Association of Trinidad and Tobago later joined they joined the challenge against the warrants that were executed. So in other words, they had no direct loss to suffer in
Yeah.
terms of the media house. But they were allowed to join the claim because procedurally, it's a point that they need to protect themselves from, or a point that will touch and concern a need that they may have to protect themselves from down the road. In other words, if this police were to execute a warrant next week on let's say, Guardian or WESN Power 102, then we would have a precedent established that they couldn't just do that.
That's right.
So you all may have joined in a claim or asked to be joined because the point that being discussed is of national interest. So that's not just on law. Sometimes it could be so boring. I'm a lawyer, so I'm partial to these
No,
things. When I see it,
I'm happy you explained that because much talk was bandied around that time, and well, I wasn't even I didn't even know that they took it all the way to the Privy Council. I thought that
yeah,
came to an end. Because
no.
yeah. So
It's
the people.
far from.
So I mean, oh Lord. So these people who formed this body, these protectors, they didn't know that it could have upset the whole scenario at the Privy Council by joining
You
late.
see, sometimes people don't get lawyers involved. Sometimes they get lawyers involved at the wrong time. Sometimes they get advice
Uh huh.
that may not consider all the variables. There's an expression, and I mean, I'm just quoting, so I'm not using obscene language here. There's an expression inherited from a few hundred years ago. They said the law is an ass.
Yes.
Uh, Sometimes you could use the law so conveniently.
Yeah.
Um, for instance, if you're prosecuting in the court, you may be able to use a case and twist the case to your advantage this week.
Yes.
And next week, if you're defending a man, you take the same case
And twist it
and
another
twist
way.
it in the next direction and use it to defend the position. So
I,
lawyers do that all the time. You know, they say that they often turn to you and say, "But just last week, I used the point in reverse." So
yeah.
it happens. It happens. I
Yeah.
I see it from time to time. So this issue here with the environment protectors, they ought to have explored the law. But in all fairness to them,
Mm-hmm.
if the law lords and if the High Court and the Court of Appeal in Trinidad and Tobago had interpreted the procedural point flexibly,
Mm-hmm.
they could say and they could have weighed in that in the interest of justice, we wouldn't want to disband the whole claim or
Yeah.
foreclose on the whole claim.
Yeah.
We could just simply say that the library environment protectors, we are what they're going to do is
Mm-hmm. To ensure
not
that it
allow
doesn't
them
happen
to proceed
again.
on the claim,
Yeah.
but and allow the others to continue. But you see, they shoot themselves in the leg. The
Yeah.
other persons they realize in the CMC hearing, the case management hearings moving forward, when they realize that this matter picking up some speed
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to cost out of their pockets in the long run. And maybe with I'm just saying, just being the
Yeah,
devil's
me too.
advocate here, maybe with it,
I'm looking at it just as how you're looking at it right now. Maybe.
correct.
Maybe.
Maybe environment protectors may have encouraged the individuals who are appearing singularly in their own right to come under their umbrella.
Yes.
So by the time the claim came before the Privy Council, they may have been representative of most people. Now, let me tell you the principle. It's a simple principle. If they allow the environment protectors to bring their claim, remember, they are making a claim on behalf of a group.
Yeah.
Let us say the group is 100 people.
Mm-hmm.
They would have standardized the claim by the individuals, and no longer is the environment protectors seeking a redress in relation to your individual loss.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Remember, I started by saying you must be able to prove how you suffered, how you lost, what
That's
you
right.
lost,
Yeah.
in what
Yeah.
way. If
Yeah.
they standardize, if they're allowed to proceed and represent 100 plus people and they standardize the claim, meaning they may simply claim, well, you know, they're claiming for discomfort
Yeah.
cause
Mm-hmm.
it compromised people enjoyment of the property, enjoyment of the environment.
Yeah.
Um, people couldn't picnic in their yards anymore. They couldn't go for daily walks. They couldn't exercise and take that
Mm-hmm.
refreshing walk that they would take. They couldn't go and have a beer in the open outside the bars,
Right.
or they simply couldn't gather in a public space for some time until things were under control. You
Mm-hmm.
may bring the claim and seek damages in relation to the general losses, but what about the particular loss
Mm-hmm.
where your son was vomiting for days and your grandchild couldn't
Yeah, and
breathe properly and
there were some people who suffer that kind of effects of the oil spill. There are some people who,
right.
you know, really suffered.
And when you bring it under the umbrella of an organization, the organization is going to focus on the standard losses. They're not going to focus on the individual and particular ones. So
That's
let
right.
us say David brings a claim.
Mm-hmm.
Your little, the money you spend to see about your child who suffered the nausea and the vomiting
Yeah.
and the personal loss and the discomfort. You're not going to be able to bring, you may not, let me not say not, you
Mm-hmm.
may not be able to bring that under the umbrella of the organization, but the
Right.
organization would have standard goals that it will be seeking and you lost your individual,
Mm.
your individual claim may be compromised. So
Yes.
sometimes some people, when they say they bring in the claim in their own right, is because they perhaps have the money to do it,
Mm-hmm.
and they also have the money, meaning the money to pilot the claim
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
court,
Yeah. Yeah.
and also some people get involved in the organization in terms of the environment protectors, particularly and peculiarly because the economies of scale, the organization will be able to absorb some of the costs.
Mm-hmm.
What
Mm-hmm.
you lose, what you gain by fact, you gain in your pocket and lose in your claim.
Yeah. I
So
am.
by the time the Many Privy Council ruled, what may have happened simply is that they simply made a procedural point that and unless you could prove you suffered a loss, and that is the organization,
Yeah. Yeah.
because they're not gonna get behind the veil of the organization. They're going to look at the organization as a whole. Who do you represent? And I mean, and making this point,
Yeah.
the the library environment protectors, their claim may have been too general. And if it is you to make a ruling, you can't compartmentalize the ruling and say, David, well, he suffered as in this way, his granddaughter got ill. These are the damages being paid. And Richard, he suffered up in a different kind of way. So he got an next piece of the pie. And then the organization as a whole, they get another. You can't do it like that, because then
Right.
justice will be disjunctive, it will be disruptive, and there wouldn't be an even scale. So
I understand that.
like we said, in terms of what you said there, sometimes you need to iron these details out
Yeah.
before you go and start bringing claims, and think about all the variables. Think down the road. Richard, you're with us. It's good to see you.
Now, sometimes it tells me, the way they operate, it tells me that Petrotrin probably realized what it would have cost them, and they probably designed that group of people, knowing that the people who were really affected didn't have a clue as what would have happened when it reached that stage.
Yeah. The irony, Dave, is that a lot of people who may have sincerely suffered loss
There were
may
a
not have
lot.
lifted an eyeball and
No.
follow through on anything, because they realize sometimes these things, there's a mindset that is a lost cause. You get money involved, you drain out your little small savings that you have in the
Yeah,
bank,
yeah,
and
yeah.
at the end of the day, the candle costs more than the funeral.
Yes, it's true. Because I know a lot of people who suffered, you know, and they kept, if up to this day, there are people who tell me that they still suffer from nausea and all kind of different ailments. People couldn't breathe properly. The stench of the hydrocarbons affected them big times. It affect most of them live on the beachfront, and
Yeah,
when high tides came, it pushed most of the spillage onto, let's say, their property then, from the beach,
yeah,
on the beach, and to the property. And most of them lived by means of fishing. So that too was compromised. The fishing boats, the fishing nets, a whole lot of things happened there with that oil spill. It was a mega oil spill. I know
yeah,
a lot of people who don't live in the immediate environment or the immediate vicinity of that spillage, they came there to work in the cleanup of this spillage, and they too suffered.
yeah.
They started complaining of certain ailments and stuff. So wow, I'm glad you spoke about that. I'm glad you raised that up. I must check it out. Richard, welcome, my brother.
Richard, how are you doing?
Yeah, well, I'm here for quite some time, and I was on the iPhone first, so
Yes,
I
I
was
saw that.
listening.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw you. Yeah.
Yeah, and
You were spying. You were spying quietly.
no,
Yeah. Pegasus.
no, I was listening.
You was on the spyware.
Yeah.
So no, sometimes you don't get the kind of camera work and so on the iPhone,
Yeah.
and plus it was about
Yeah.
to die. But the good news is I wasn't too far from where I am now,
Right.
so I just wanted to, yeah. So it was good listening, and as Farid said, it was a ruling, and all I meant to think is that the procedural side, I think he said earlier on, is what
Yeah.
they got out of the way,
Mm-hmm.
right? But
Yeah.
the bigger part of it that could come later on. So I understand that.
I don't know who's going to help those folks. Those folks are what we call, I don't want to say that to make it sound that bad. They're not that
mhm,
bad, but I mean, they are what we call hand to mouth people.
yeah,
They are
Well,
people,
it's the poor people.
yeah,
It's
the
the
poor
poor people
people.
that suffer in the end.
That's
It's
right.
always the poor people.
Yeah, yeah. You're so correct, Farid.
And what people may not know, there's a well, I'm sure Richard would, but the general public out there, there's a limitation, a statute of limitation in order to bring matters like this before the court. A matter like this is a 4-year period. If it is you haven't brought your claim within 4 years of the date of the spill,
It becomes
you're in
null and void.
problems.
Oh my God.
Yeah, you're in problems.
you'll be out of
So I can
time.
Yeah.
yeah, and
A lot of
I
time
can
has
see why.
a lot of time has lapsed, yeah.
And it's
Yeah,
sad that
so I
agencies,
think,
do this sort of thing from time to time.
Yeah. That's sad.
and I hope people are so advised that if they are affected, that they could get a good attorney, probably even like Farid himself, and see how best they could take some form of action to seek some
Redress,
damages,
as he said.
compensation for whatever loss they suffered. Because the state is there not to harm you. The government is supposed to protect you. and
And,
equity move
and
forward. And if
Petrotrin was a state-owned company.
yeah, and if something happened that has caused your property to suffer loss, and in this case, major loss, and you yourself, if you can go out, get out to go to work,
Yeah.
who caused that? So in law, there's a principle of law that is known as causation. And we'd have to look into that to see the extent to which you may have suffered damages, or where you have suffered losses, and therefore the remedy you are searching is damages in the form of compensation for what you lost.
That's right.
And you may be able to advance a good case and get back some funding. Once the damages that some people may want to claim are not too remote.
So that
Because
4-year period, would it restart seeing that?
No, 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 no.
No, that's it.
No,
No,
you
you
have 4
can't do
years
that.
within which to bring a claim.
Right. Now that the
Right,
Privy Council has ruled, how can they get any sort of redress, as you said, Farid, as of
Well,
now?
the persons who brought action in the past, well, at the same time, the other persons,
Yeah.
not the library environmental protectors,
Yeah, the people who were really
those
directly
other persons
affected.
who brought claims, they would be able to bring their claim. Now,
Oh.
individually, they would have had a claim. The reason why they came under the umbrella of the special purpose company was simply for economies of scale, to bring the cost down. If 100 people come under the umbrella of an organization who's piloting the matter, the organization will pilot the matter in the name of its group.
Yeah.
It's like a union, so to speak, if we were to marry the two.
Yeah.
Union is representing the interests of all its membership.
Yeah.
So the members of the special purpose committee, persons that have grouped themselves under that umbrella, they would be able to save costs. And in saving the costs, their position would be that they would feel less of the weight in carrying the matter. However, back in terms of what you're saying, that was a procedural point that was made along the way.
Yeah.
An issue that arose from the substantive cause of action. The substantive issue is whether persons suffered loss, and in what way they suffered loss, and whether Petrotrin owed a duty of care, whether they breached the duty, and exploring that. That is the substantive issue. But the procedural point is the Petrotrin was like, before we go any further, this organization, Library Environment Protectors, who are you all? Where's all your locus here? Why is all your playing this whole thing? Because we don't recognize that there's anybody we are accountable to.
Right.
And then they would have to explain that they are a special purpose company. And the irony is they were formed, they only organize themselves and register themselves, according to what I've read there, unless I could be shown otherwise. After the incident, they buy the fight over, as you say. They buy over time.
Yeah.
So they may have had good intentions, but there's an expression that the road to hell sometimes is paved with good intentions.
Yeah.
So in this instance, something hellish came up in the context of procedurally they had to take a back seat now. But the other persons are free to pursue the substantive matter. It doesn't debar the individuals from bringing their claim in their own right. But if it is you didn't file your claim within 4 years of the spill, then you cannot go and do that now. You can't smell a rat and say, "Boy, we could make our money here. We could jump in the suit and make a small thing." You can't do that. Now, the small issue is that the reason why the law gives you a period of 4 years, it's because sometimes you may suffer damage, and you suffer the damage one time. You start to feel nauseous. You realize every day now I'm feeling worse. I had to go and get treatment. And then some people whose constitution might be a bit different. They might figure, well, nothing wrong with me. I don't know what happened to Richard next door. He claiming all this going wrong with him. But 4 months down the road, they must start to feel something. And when they do check it out, he just got a delayed reaction to what Richard faced the morning after. So they give you the 4-year time period for you to have still the window of opportunity to bring your claim. And another thing is, by the time Richard's neighbor started to feel ill, Richard's situation may have advanced far down the road. So his claim now, when it is to bring his claim, if it is to bring his claim a year from the date of the spill, his claim he may be able to advance it in terms of, I suffered in so many which ways. The first 3 months, this is how I was feeling. In the 6 month days, how I was feeling. By the 9 month, I know myself. By the end, in a year time, I can't taste the difference between stew and curry. I lost my sense of taste. So you could advance your claim. You can't rush to bring your claim. You have to wait and see how sick you get. How much damage you suffer, in what way you lost.
Yes. And you'll have to show proof of that. Medical proof of that.
Yes, but you can't claim and can't back up your claim. So
Those people that mess for you. Because I know those
yeah,
people can't afford. They can hardly afford magistrate court fees. Far as to go high court and further. Only if a man
people
like you
didn't.
decide to do it pro bono.
The
We have
OSH agency was a
attorneys.
secondary party.
Yeah.
The OSH agency was a secondary party. They have a responsibility to
Yes.
ensure that a company are environmentally okura, if we may put it differently, that
Yeah.
they keeping in tune and in line with the provisions of the standard required of the industry.
That's right.
So, in other words, Petrotrin ought to have been getting checkups, as we see. You know how the same way human beings go for medical and dental checkups,
Yeah.
are supposed to go and check up on them and make sure that all you're obeying the rules and all you're compliant and so on with the provisions to ensure that. And so they brought the claim, and the OSH agency was a secondary defendant in the matter. They were being brought before the court to answer to why it is all you do all your work, because if all you was doing all your work, we wouldn't have been in this position. We suffer too because of the inability to perform your function.
Yes. Yes.
So, but that, like I said, the persons who remain in the claim and who have already brought their claim, the substantive issue, Richard, will be dealt with in the court moving forward. They just got a little procedural point out. But for the listeners out there, this could be a learning experience. The
Yeah.
next time something
I
happens,
think so. Yeah, yeah.
Labrador
You'll
was the
find
guinea pig.
more
Yeah.
people now
Yeah.
will try to, if I could say, assert their rights faster and try to seek redress in the shortest possible time,
Yeah.
which could be fairness to them. It's not just that they're looking, as Farid said, to make a money. But in developed countries, that's how it works. If you cause anyone to suffer damage, especially meaningfully,
Yeah.
then somebody had to pay.
That's
Because
right.
if you didn't do it yourself, but it happened to you and it came at the hands of someone else, then there must be some kind of compensation due to you.
I tell you.
So as you find that the country becomes more developed educationally, and with people like Farid on and Skippy from well, he's on Fridays and even before, and the contributions I've made and other people whom we bring on, what we are doing here is educating a lot of people throughout this country, so that when anything happens to them that is similar to this, they have an idea in advance in terms of how they could react or respond to it.
Yeah.
So they don't have to sit and wonder and ask themselves unanswerable questions for some of them, such as what I would do now, how this could happen to me, life in fear. No, they have places to go to make sure life remains fair,
Yeah.
to make sure you get redress. And that's the courthouse. Some people are afraid of it to take the action. They feel if they lose it will cost them. They are good attorney, again, like Farid, and who could tell you what your probability of success is in advance.
Yeah.
I think if you get Farid, he might tell you have a 99% chance of victory.
I always even with my clientele, I always tell them, particularly the criminal clientele, you have to be honest with them. You can't afford to get on the wrong side of those boys.
No.
So you tell them this. I remember a guy came to my office and I tell him the only thing I could do for you is to limit the amount of jail you're gonna make, because you have 5 convictions already. You come to me now to produce what, a Houdini job. So I set the bar real high, Richard. I told him you're going to make a year.
Yeah.
He got 3 months. He was happy. He said, "Boy, you pull that
That's
off
it.
by
That's
only
it.
3 months."
Yeah, no, that's what you had to do. That's like the smoking gun theory.
Yeah.
You have to sell them far worse than
Yeah.
what you know you can do.
Yes,
So when
yeah.
they do better, they have no choice but say, "Nah, man, good boy." Because you prepare them for a year.
Yeah.
Mentally, they don't start since you tell them that preparing themselves to be inside for a year.
Yeah.
Imagine come and tell you 3 months. Well, boy, that's drinking water.
Yeah.
3 months compared to the whole year. It feel like, they say take a week off yours.
Yeah.
Go and lock up for a week, and they'll be very pleased with that. So
Right.
that's a good strategy, Farid. Very good strategy. Yeah. And I hope people listen to that, Farid Kassé, because there's a law against advertising attorneys.
Yes.
I'm not one. I have a degree in law, but I could talk about who could help you all.
Yeah.
Will be
Yes.
sought after Farid.
Yeah.
He will answer You know, he would solve your problems.
Yes.
All right. Last night we heard the Prime Minister. At least I heard him on the radio today. I think that meeting was last night, right? Anyone listen to him?
I didn't hear the
Any of
part.
you? I mean,
No, no,
people
no.
did listen to him. Anyone of you here listen to him?
No, not me. I had no time for that.
All right. So the godly gentleman is making a case. I mean, I always say he's a fantastic platform speaker, no doubt about it. But I know this time he's as good as he is.
Have some
It's a
problems
steep
now.
climb for him.
Yeah.
It's-
Yeah.
I don't want to say the gig is up, but I would say it's a steep climb for him.
Yes,
If
yes.
he's intellectually strong enough, though, to turn this steep climb, to turn it around and make it more perpendicular, so which is more manageable to overcome, so that or if I could say more surmountable in a perpendicular terrain compared to just a flat out steep climb. That is one sometimes it's very difficult to get over,
Yeah.
if you can get over it at all. I don't think he's there as yet, but he said something that concerned me a bit last night. Remember, I've been saying all along, there's this tendency like the government doesn't want to spend money and share the wealth with the citizens.
Yeah.
Now tell me, we'll get back into it, but just, you inside for 7 years. Come on, no one voted for you to be inside to tell them for 7 years, I can't do nothing for you. There's no time I could slacken the belt for you. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that while they have money now, he's saying, my interpretation is that they cannot sustain a huge increase and back pay. Now you are saying, hear this, he's saying, with a small increase of about 2% to 4%, to pay the amount of people will cost like $1.1 billion. Right? We said it. Now you know how much people are going to be taken care of out of that in the back pay and everything?
That's
Like
right.
thousands of people, if not hundreds of thousands, right? But one family in this country got over $100 million in rent alone over the first 5 years.
Yeah.
$100 million is 10% of $1 billion. But they felt that was okay for one man, one family.
Yeah.
That was okay. So that if one man could get 10% of $1 billion, you would want to tell me to spend 1.1 or $1.2 billion on about 80,000 people is a bad spend? But you're talking about the $1.1 billion, he's saying. As though that is, you know what a hit that is on the treasury? Well, one man under your administration received over 10% of $1 billion in 5 years. And you say he have a small business. Remember he said that? He said that man has a small business. 10% of $1 billion, $100 million. And then you want to tell the rest of society that to spend 1.1, 1.2 billion on tens of thousands of them, that is too much for them. But I wonder who will buy that kind of reasoning. This is why I say it's a steep climb. Who will buy that? So therefore, under taxpayers' money, we have preferential payments, expenditure. So depending on who you are, there's no limit to the amount they would spend on you or to you. But on some others, if you were to take 80,000 people and divide $1.1 billion, you know the small amount of money that is per person? Compared to one family led by one individual getting over 10% of $1 billion. And that's why he would stand up and tell the people in this country last night.
But Richard, what you're suggesting that the Prime Minister cut some slack, pay more than the 2%. What he was basically stating is that between the years 2014 to 2021, it basically was austerity years that they could only afford a 2% increase, and that he doesn't want to now go and commit resources on the level that the union wants. Now the union saying they find the Prime Minister being totally disrespectful. And
what is the level the unions want?
Well, clearly they want they don't want the 2%. The union wants
No,
to
sir.
negotiate, and they haven't been totally. The union hasn't been totally honest with us. The union has been arguing over what is gone in the past in terms of the figure. The money was 2% is a disrespect. It was over a period of 6 years. They want to negotiate for more money now. The prime minister told them very bluntly that I may give you money now and you may be out of a job later.
Why should
No,
he
hold
say
on.
So
that,
That is
Fareed?
old
Why
talk.
should he say that, Fareed?
That is old talk, Faris. When you vote in a government, I'm going to repeat that. That is old talk. When you're talking like that, you're only annoying the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I mean, on a platform. Because when you elect a government to office, you elect that government for the first 5 years to turn whatever is in existence around and start to improve your life. Now you come in, the average price of oil for the last 5 years was about $73 between 2015 and 2020. Are you aware of that, Faris?
yeah.
Right. Therefore, they have been making enough money to sustain this increase right there alone. Right there alone. Then from then to now, hold on.
Yeah, have you considered the debt we've been in?
Oh,
Which
hold
debt,
on.
Richard,
Fareed? Which
we've been
debt,
coming out
Fareed?
of some serious debt.
Faris,
Our food bill is a billion
that was
US
always
dollars
there.
a
That was
year.
all. Paris, that was always there. Tell me something new. That was always there. And the budget is still around the figure to accommodate that. That was always there. So you know what they're doing now? They're picking out all kind of things and giving the country the price of those things. They're telling you how much it costs in the state to pay workers, you know, as it is. But all of that government's paid workers, they knew that recurrent expenditure was a given, meaning, well, it was a recurrent, and it is a recurrent in the full context of what a recurrent expenditure is. It's something that will come upon you every month. The prime minister went back into giving us a speech he gave us in 2016. We had another prime minister in the Caribbean that had to call somebody to ask them how much money they have to decide what they can spend the next day. I sure it's not the people who ever heard that. You heard that since 2016? Why are you telling me that now? We heard that before. We heard it more than once before. I'm sure that same prime minister talking about it's not that way for them today. But he saw it as though that is happening today. It's not. And the fact that you will look to bring it back up now as though it's happening now informs me and many other people. Oh boy, they have very little or nothing material to say to justify or defend your position. It is simple. Now, let me give another picture. Richard, quest it is, right? Said we have a windfall of money. A windfall.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a windfall coming on the back of oil prices being averaging $73 from 2015 to 2020, and then we're going into a war that push it up to $130 a barrel. And then you hear what we're doing in methanol and natural gas, all those things now. A lot of money. Now, of course, that might not be sustainable to give the unions what they're asking. But surely you could say we can make the unions 3/4 way or halfway. And you don't have to wait till you know you have all the money to sustain it over 20 years before you get increased. Why do you get increased now? And if things turn out again as they were in 2015, you come back to the people and do like what you did in 2015 then. You say, folks, when things had improved, we did this. You follow what I'm saying? We're in a different place now. These things have happened now. We cannot sustain the increase we gave you all. So what we want to do in order to move the country forward again and we all can live comfortably is to put you back at the salary levels you were at in 2022 before we get the increase. And as things improve, we'll come back to the table and so you can improve it. So I'm saying, as things become better, the people should feel it. When things are not good, then the people would tighten their belt and take that squeeze and hit with you. But since 2015 to now, people only suffering hits. So we had no money, we take a hit, we say, okay, everybody put their hand up and say, nah, we had to play our part, including me. We take the hit. Things improve. At the end of 2016, early 2017, oil fled back up to $75, $78. And therefore, it stayed there so long that it could easily work out an average of about $72, $73 over the 5 years. But you gave us no increase. Now it's time to give the increase.
Do you
Well,
think that the union
gentlemen, before you guys continue, I must remind you that if you look on your screens, you'll see Mr. Akanath Singh is here with us. All right. Just want to give you guys a heads up. Akanath
Richard,
Singh is
let's
here
not
with
keep our
us.
guests. Let's not keep our guests. Perhaps we could have Mr. Singh
Well, he's in the
join us.
agricultural business, right? He's an agronomist and a agricultural educator, and he holds a degree in agriculture. Let me say hi and good afternoon, Mr. Singh. Mr. Singh, are you there? Well, I'm seeing him online.
Yes, I am here.
Oh, he's here. Right. Welcome.
Hi, how are you, sir?
It's good to have you.
Okay.
I am Farid Ali, and my friend on screen there is Mr. Richard Noriega. We are hosting this program. I'm the lesser of the Richard Nori. Sorry, my mind is on another place. Richard Nori. I am the lesser of the two mortals. Richard Nori is the lead host here. I am the co-host. So it's good to have you. It's good to have you. We've heard good things about you.
Well, you're very
lucky.
You're very lucky to have me here because I've never done this before.
Well, there's always a first time.
Yes, welcome, brother.
There's always a first time. And welcome, Mr. Singh. I'll call on my co-host, Mr. Ali, to lead off in the interview. Mr. Ali.
Mr. Singh, perhaps you can give us some background on who you are for viewers' sake. We Richard and I know who you are, but maybe you can tell us a small synopsis of the work that you do and what you're about in this moment professionally.
Well, I'm originally from the heartland of Pineapple Stableland. Yes, I'm an agricultural graduate from the Eastern Caribbean Institute of Agriculture and Forestry and DV as well. So basically, I'm working with a lot of farmers, home gardeners, hydroponics. But actually, in a way, I was a bit forced to start this business on my own due to struggling to get employment and whatnot. So I launched my plant clinic last year, Akanath Singh Plant Diagnostic Clinic, and I'm shocked at the response I've been getting. I didn't know people were so impressed with my work. I didn't know that. Basically, I deal with crop recovery, right? I recover disease gardens infested with insect pest mites, nutritional problems. I also I started holding classes, home gardening classes, farmers classes, hydroponics classes, trying to bring more education to the citizens of TNT, because I can't indicate one thing to you. During the COVID period, there was a spike in home gardening in the country. A lot of people reached out to me indicating that they lost their jobs, or some were retrenched and whatnot, and they wanted to get into active agricultural production, plant their own food, which is good. And I like to see ambitious people like this. And well, I've just been, it's just so much work. You may not believe this, but in the last year, I've assisted a few thousand people in Trinidad and Tobago, the Caribbean, and across the world, just from sitting in my bedroom like this. I don't have an office, so I have to do everything in my bedroom. So excuse the background, is my bedroom. Right? This is where I work from.
Well, it's good to see that we have somebody with this sort of know-how who's willing to share it, not just locally, but communally in terms of our communities, and to share their wisdom with the wider world. What we brought you here for is to basically shed some light and to offer some advice and so on for our listenership, right? The position is simply this. So you would be aware that it's bandied in the newspaper every day that our food debt is $1 billion a year. Trinidad and Tobago, that is. And because of the war in the Ukraine and with Russia and so on, grain, Russia and Ukraine exports some 30% of the wheat that the world has
Yeah,
at its disposal. So with that, they're preoccupied in this special military operation that is taking place there. A lot of what would have been exported and siphoned out to the Caribbean and the rest of the wider world would not meet our needs. To bring it home, National Flour Mills recently indicated that, you know, because they don't have access to the wheat supply that they would have had in the past, that the position would be now that cost is going up. They don't have an alternative to wheat flour. Former Agriculture Minister Ramarat was indicating, well, perhaps we need to turn to other forms of produce, that provisions that is. So I guess yam and dashin and cassava and so on, and get our carbohydrates from that. So in other words, we're in a diversification drive. We have to be innovative. So the people who would have been planting in their home gardens with flowers and things for just to add to the aesthetics of their yard, must now get more into planting their own food crop, or the crops or the items that they would need for their house, whether it be pimentos, pepper, seasoning, whatever little things that they have to do. Now, apart from the home gardening, we're looking at the government with a drive that they started on the 1st of March. They were offering, and I don't like to just say things, I like to refer to our reading in the newspaper. So if I'm wrong, I could say, well, my source mislead me. On the Wednesday, the 2nd of March, 2022, the newspaper carried an article which spoke of the government has a youth agricultural homestead program where it's really targeting persons between the ages of 18 to 35 to acquire certification in agriculture, and they're offering state lands. So they're going to be able to, with the training and the development, they will be given access to state lands where they can now put that skill to use, and we could develop our own crops and create food for ourselves. Our Prime Minister recently came back from Guyana, where there was a summit, and discussions were had in collaboration with Barbados and Guyana with what we can do to increase the regional food basket and to cut costs and not have to spend the money that we're spending. My question to you is this sort of initiative, this is happening at a national level. What is your input in terms of, are you seeing pros and cons arising out of this? Or do you think the approach that they're taking may be a little bit utopian, ambitious? Are you of the view that this is achievable, the drive that we're on?
Now, let me say this. We need to increase our local production capacity. I want to say this firstly. One thing that has been lacking in this I stay very quiet, and I hook my corner and I do my agri work. I don't come out in public life. I'm at the soil level, working right through nonstop. So I can tell you this, something that is significantly lacking in this agricultural sector, it is education and training. No, listen, proper education and training. This initiative is actually an excellent idea, because we definitely need to train the youths to get into active agricultural production, give them a skill set, not just a skill set, you teach a man to fish for the rest of his life. We need to improve our production capacity. We need to create employment. We need to focus on that as well. Create jobs, and we need to create jobs, employment, create skill set. And this is a good initiative, because yes, we have unemployed youths in the country. During the course of my agricultural work at the soil level, many youths throughout TNT keep asking me, where could I get a piece of land? Where could I get a piece of land? So this initiative is good. It is good, but we need to ensure the proper training is employed in this initiative. And so my area in this is, what I strongly believe is that it's a good initiative, yes, but proper education and training. I mean, it's 2 years. I mean, I trained somebody to be a farmer in 8 hours, you know, and I would love to be a part of this project, and to train some of the youths in some of the important cash crops we have in this country. But I don't want really to get too much into the politics of things. I just want to see the youths get employment, get a skill set, they learn how to plant their own food, and it's a good initiative. That's all I can say. It's a good initiative. I would like to see it more expanded. 200 is good, yes, but I believe they said next year they are going to be taking more, but it's a good start. It is a very good start.
My position is this, right? I agree with you that it sounds nice. It's a good start. Yes, the initiative um, is very likely to bear fruit, but we are in a crisis, or we in crisis levels at this point. Maybe as a country, we may be able to, with the resources that the country has, they may be able to balance the budget and balance its budget in terms of its foods budget moving forward for a particular period of time. But we are individuals out there, meaning households. Um, they may not get that individual support in the short to medium term. Um, Land and access to land is one issue. As a country, we can access state lands and we can try to achieve a national objective. But what is your view in terms of the common man out there, the people who living on 5,000 square feet of land, meaning one lot of land with a house on it? Do you see home gardens and a combination of home gardens throughout communities lifting of food?
No, let me tell you what's going to happen. You see, with the rising feed, the rising fertilizer prices, the rising feed prices, the rising food prices, right? Yes, we need to start at the home garden level, and this is where I've set up a lot of home gardens, and I can tell you, Trinidadians, a lot of Trinidad, we have a lot of first-time home gardeners within the last year. And it started home gardening, yes, but focus needs to be on, I am telling you this, it is community gardening. We need to protect our vulnerable families within the communities. I mean, we can't just give anybody state lands, right? Yes, there are projects. The government is trying their best, and we can't just give anybody state lands. There must be a system in place. But regarding food security, local food security, yes, it starts at the home garden level. I want to see families starting to plant in their backyard. I want to see lettuce, pak choy, kale, celery, banana. I want to see peppers, pimentos. Plant. You are going to save $1. You're going to save a lot. You're going to save some money. But not that. You see. Community gardens is very important. I know we have some community gardens, but I think MPs across TNT need to do more focus with community garden, because because of the rising food and feed, the rising feed prices, fuel prices just increasing. We need to protect our vulnerable families. We don't know what later down the month's going to come. So I think for starters, the home gardening, yes, people have already gotten into home gardening, but community gardening, we need to ramp it up, right? And it can't make a significant impact in the lives of these vulnerable families.
Now, for those of us like myself, I live in a concrete jungle. My whole yard is concrete. I have no agricultural space. Mm-hmm. People who live in communities where there isn't any room for that sort of technology or that sort of improvisation, they more or less have to carry that bill. They have to carry that expense. So when you say community gardening, I would imagine that your mindset is also that when people like Richard and David plant in their yard and they have surplus crop, they may sell it in the produce market and make it available for people like myself. So people who may not want to go that extra mile or who can't do it. You're suggesting that the community gardening can evolve and flourish into something that could serve, well, the individual garden could serve the wider community. Mm-hmm. What about now we see where the government has a plan in terms of a 2-year plan, if we will put it that way, right? Where the training will be put in place, the access to the lands will be made available to them. We know this ain't gonna happen overnight. Do you think, are you of the view that there are things that the state can do in the interim to help subsidize the cost of feed, the cost of seedlings, the cost of plants, the startup money needed for home gardening? Because with the inflationary cost, we may have an issue.
Yes, and I know the ministry during the COVID time. I know the Ministry of Agriculture. They were giving out seeds initiative and whatnot. The government, what they can do, they can provide incentives. Not just seeds. Let me tell you what people need. People need more technical support. They need guidance, technical support, not just seed. You can't just give a man seeds and say, here, plant. You have to show that man how to plant, right? We don't have enough education and training in the country on that. But I understand what you're saying, that if they are not doing enough to ensure a sustainable home, practical home gardening, what I would like to see, we utilize our community centers in Trinidad and Tobago, right? We utilize our community centers, right? We have a lot of unemployed agricultural graduates from EKF and UWI. That is a fact. And we can recruit some of these graduates to get into these community centers to give this needed training, right? Not only that, the government, yes, they can provide more than just seeds, not just seeds. You need planting containers, you need assistance with soil, planting containers, but you need the know-how, the technical expertise, the guidance. I think that we really need to utilize our community centers. We need to have more collaboration between the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Community Development. But I want to just shift a little bit here. I want to say something that I think that is something that I find could work, right? Now, we have a lot of youths in this country. They want to plant. You want to plant? Yes, they want to plant. But the problem has been access to land. And I know that we have abandoned land. I shouldn't say abandoned land. I should say available state lands in the country, right, that we can tap into. I would like to see that they engage the Commission of State Lands to start a different youth in agricultural program through state land acquisition, where we can identify certain available state lands which at the different district within the country, and send your case to the commissioner. Let us see if we can give these youths leased state lands with at least a 3-year probationary tenancy agreement, right? A 3-year lease, a 3-year probationary tenancy agreement, and also give them the technical expertise through the extension service in the Ministry of Agriculture. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that yes, the homestead program is good, but I would like to see us expand a little bit more on that. Let us target a more nationwide approach, utilizing state lands throughout TNT. Now, I'm not saying just hand out state land. It's a process that must be involved, right? I actually sent letters to MPs and to various MPs across the country with this initiative. I even offered my services to guide these youths in getting into active agriculture production. The issue will always be the same, access to land. And all I can say is, yes, the homestead program is good. It's a start, but I would like to see that expanded more throughout TNT.
What are you saying? Let me ask you a question here. What are you saying is that within every community, there's land that can be made available for members of the community to come together and plant. If every district or every community could have access to state lands, I understand what you're saying. That can help in a more expansive way than home gardening.
We need to identify, firstly, we're doing the home garden is just at home. But when you look at our community, we need to protect the vulnerable families in our community. How can I say this? We cannot just give state lands. The Commission of State Lands, she can identify which areas across TNT that she can grant the opportunity to give you leased state lands, right? But once you come with once it's a proposal, a production plan, once it's good work, once it's something good to help the community. I'm not just saying just give out state lands. No, let me say it like this. If I was an MP, the first thing I would do, and all is going on worldwide, the first thing I will engage the Commission of State Lands, and I would kindly request if you can locate any available parcel of state lands within my constituency, and to get the youths involved, and even if it's 5 lots. Even if it's 5 lots, I use part of the constituency funding to at least get it startup, little seeds, buy little seeds, little product, seeds, agrochemicals, salt, fertilizers, right? And then again, I mostly send everything through the leaves. I hardly use salts, fertilizer. Yes, this case is happening with Russia and our fertilizers, but we have our ways we can send everything through the leaves. So that's what I'm trying to say. Yes, we have to we have to brace ourselves. We can do this through home gardening. Plant what you eat what you. as the saying goes, plant what you eat what you plant, what you grow what you eat. I believe that's his saying. Well, not just that. Let us look at our communities. And I think that MPs need to get more involved with the community regarding agriculture and community garden. It can be done. It can be done.
Mr. Singh, I'm with you, you know. I follow exactly what you're saying. My concern is this, and I think I share your view. I have a concern that when we're looking at a 22% increase in food prices, all arising out of that COVID situation we just came out of there, arising out of just general inflation throughout the world, arising out of the shortages that we're facing. People have a lack of money, meaning the people that trade with us, the money that we generate, that great situation and the Putin situation in Ukraine simply didn't help, because the Baltic Sea is now tied up with the spillover of that military action. We have a bigger problem here. Our problem is we need to get corporate Trinidad and Tobago on with what you're describing. The minister, Kazim Hussein, came out and he said that there's a drive, and he's hoping that corporate Trinidad and Tobago support in some way in terms of whether they're helping by supplying seeds, whether they're helping by providing fertilizer. People like yourself who are willing to share your know-how is excellent, and the work that you've been doing is tremendous. We acknowledge that. My concern is people like yourself will soon become frustrated when you recognize that the people you're trying to help have a supply problem, apart from you willing to share what you have and what you know and your expertise. We have to get around that issue of where they're going to get access to land. If it is our position is corporate Trinidad and Tobago is on board with us, you're getting that families, communities are getting the support in terms of seedling support, in terms of people like yourself sharing what the wisdom that you have. Are you and have you in your experience seen the persons that you've helped already, seen that they've transformed themselves from a position of where they were just spending all the money on food to where now they've cut their food bill by 10%, 5%, 15%. You're seeing that sort of thing, the results?
Definitely. You should follow my farmers group on Facebook, TNT Farmers and Home Gardeners. You will constantly see people posting up, thank you, Ignace, and thank you, Ignace, and thank you, Ignace, and just a beautiful, flourishing garden, right? As I noted before, COVID forced a lot of people to get into gardening, home gardening, right? And people are saving a lot of money. I have a lot of first-time home gardeners. They just go into the backyard, they're picking their tomatoes, picking cucumbers. I have home gardeners planting beetroot, planting sweet potatoes right in their backyard. People, you are saving money through home gardening. And I think that home gardening is something you shouldn't tell somebody they should do. They should know that this is something they should do. You shouldn't beg anybody to get into home garden. It is something that people should know that they should do. People are saving money with home gardening. I am telling you, a lot. It is cutting their food bill. It is cutting their food bill. But the thing with the community garden, what I was talking about, you see, we have a lot of, I'm telling you, we have a lot of single mothers in this country. And this could be a food basket. This could be a food bank for these single mothers. There are, I mean, I don't want to say anything too negative, but we have a lot of people. We have people in this country that are struggling. They are struggling, and they need food. They need food. If we get land, at least a lot in each constituency, I mean, I could probably freely develop that, freely from planting to finish. I don't like to see people hungry. I've been there. I've been hungry already. I've been homeless twice over the years. I know that feeling. I don't want to hear anybody have no food. That hurts me. And I would like to see we have a sustainable, consistent supply of a diversity of food available within each constituency, right? And this is where the MPs must get involved. I wrote letters to MPs offering my services, some of this free, and nobody ever replies to me.
Let me ask you this. What about the what are some of these simple crops that can be grown in someone's yard in the shortest space of time with the least amount of work? Because let's face it, there are people who listening out there, simple homestead people, regular people who have no knowledge, no background. What are some of the crops that you think is a good way to start and you know that would assist in a deep way? Because we're talking crops, but we haven't identified what are some of those
Right. The
we're not
first thing
talking commercial.
right. So the first, no, you see, no, I'd like to start in an order, right? So let me start. Of course, we buy seasoning every week. We all cook every day. We always buy seasoning. You need to plant your celery, side, banana, your seasoning and herbs, right? We all make salad. Lettuce and patch, that's just 4 weeks crops. So by the end of the third week to the fourth, you pick lettuce and patch. That is not for now. Those crops are easy. Now, when we look at crops like beetroot, that's about beetroot is about 2 months. Sweet potato could vary between 2 to 4 months. But you see, cassava is something I would like. I have home gardeners who planted cassava. Cassava is such a sustainable crop. You uproot that cassava, you chop off that, and you take back that same stem, we cut the cassava sticks, you cut it, that same sticks, and stick it back in your soil. Just cassava that is your cassava, the same cassava catching back. It's a recyclable, sustainable plant, right? And of course, breadfruit. I want to see MPs on these roads planting breadfruit on the side of the road. I find breadfruit is such a bulk of nutritious food, right? A bulk of nutritious food. Now, I want to have you plant in home garden. I am telling you, you need to plant your seasoning and herbs. You will save money every week, every day you're cooking. You're buying seasoning every week. I am telling you, if you check out how much money you spend on seedlings on seasoning for the end month, you'll be surprised. A few hundred, right? Cassava. You can plant your hot peppers, pimentos, sweet peppers, bygone tomatoes. In the middle, you run a tuchi dashing, run a tuchi edos, run a tuchi yam. We have these things. It can be done. This is what I'm saying. I just sit quiet helping my home gardeners to set up home gardens. And I can tell you, look at my page, are the quality gardens coming out, right? This is where we are lacking in this country. We are lacking education and training, right? So I'm putting aside education and training. You see, home garden, it can be done. If you don't have a home garden and you need help, you are hearing me today, contact me on Facebook, Akanath Singh Plant Diagnostic Clinic. I will assist you. And something I would like to also note, many families reach out to me. They cannot afford, what is he saying? I can't afford a full grocery. So if I plant a few of this here, it can help me cut my grocery bill. I feel that pain. You know what I do? I'm booking you for tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. You're getting a free class, right? Did you see, if you check my page of the farmers that I assisted there, right? You have no idea, those farmers in Port Austin, they cannot afford the pesticides, right? They can't afford the pesticides. I posted and I raised funds called Agro Shops, you got it. I mean, we need to, there are some people who have been affected by the COVID. I mean, this is a global thing. We can't just, jump up and put blame, right? We can plant a sustainable home garden right at our homes. Yes, you noted about land space. Now, what we have now, we have the vertical system. We have the vertical system, which is the Mr. Starkey system, the vertical Mr. Starkey system. I can tell you this, in the past 12 months, we have had a significant increase in hydroponics in this country. I can tell you that, significant increase in hydroponics. And the people that have been developing the system, more or less the middle class business people, right? And you see, you say don't have space. We can show you how you can plant. There is a system right now planting tomatoes on hydroponics. There is a lot of things, technology happening in Trinidad that I think people don't know about, That is what I think. This is what education and training, we are falling short of, education and training. But as I said, we're back to the initial point of home gardening. As I told you, your seasoning and herbs, you will save money with that. Hot peppers, pimentos, sweet pepper, bygone tomatoes. You could just plant a little. These things are not. By the 8th week, you're picking hot peppers, sweet peppers, whatnot. Too, if you plant cassava is 9 months, average 9 months. You dig up that, and those same stick on the cassava plant, you sticking back that, right? I mean, I could tell 100 things.
Right, well, let me ask you this. I think you sound good, honestly, and I think you sound passionate And I think you have helped a lot of farmers, and you have said repeatedly, consult your page and we'll see. When someone does that, it means that it really has something there that would reveal the extent of your participation in this area, this field. And I would look at it myself and see. But your call is what I'm paying more attention to, the families to get involved. And it's not too hard to get involved. And it is so meaningful to them to get involved and save money
Let
and
me
probably
let me take
get
this opportunity.
quality products.
But
Because
let
when you
me.
plant it yourself,
Mhm.
you will take better care of supervising that. And then you could actually, you could attest to what your garden have been through at your hands. Because you look at some farmers, they take the water from the drain and all that kind of thing. It may not,
I
but
mean,
yeah.
we
But
talk,
my
but
point
at
is,
the home
I
garden
don't
level.
lose this point. I don't lose this point, and then yeah, the thinking is, um, why more people, even the government, has not gotten involved to help push this good work that you're doing. What do you think could be the reason or reasons for that? Yeah.
I actually I feel to cry actually say that because I asked myself that question as well. I I don't know. I mean, let me tell you something. This is live. This is live, right? This is live, right?
It is live. It is live. Yes. So don't
Okay.
cry. Don't cry,
Oh no, all
please.
right. I mean, since I was 16, my dream was to be an agricultural extension officer in the Ministry of Agriculture. Right? Fed up apply and still today this year makes it 17 years. I'm still waiting. 17.
Look at that. That must be
And,
viewed as okay. And you have a
don't know.
degree in this, not so?
Yes, and ashamed to tell people this. So I have to my colleagues from you and everybody, I'm embarrassed to tell everybody this, which is that my people think I finished my master's, but I didn't. I don't want to say I dropped out. I just didn't come. I did my MSc, my master's in plant pathology, specialized in plant pathology, virology, tropical crop protection, because crop diseases is my passion, and I can't afford the tuition. So it was too much of struggling in my life. I just real struggle, and I mean, I just want to help people. I love agriculture and I want to help people and I don't want to hear anybody hungry. I've been there. Listen this, a guy reached out for my help. He told me that COVID messed him up. He have two children to see about. The same way he decided he's spraying, he told me thinking about drinking it because he cannot make ends meet. Immediately I contact Massey Distribution because Massey does really support my work and give out hampers, right? And I give them free classes. A lady said her husband died from COVID and she has to be the man now to work hard and she need help. She don't know how to plant. I mean, let me tell you, people, I mean, when people come to me with these things, I feel their pain. I feel their pain because I know what is struggling. I struggle a lot. And I just want to help people through. I want to make a significant contribution towards the sustainable development of the agricultural sector through the practice of my profession. But I just not getting the opportunity. And this is why last year I had a choice. Pay rent or groceries. And I started to cry and I prayed and I heard something like a male voice start classes and I jumped past her, right. I put classes on Facebook who want to start do agri classes and over 200 people messaged me that day and I couldn't believe it for classes. So Facebook has been mining me since last year. Facebook, all the farmers and home gardeners who supported my agri group, thank you. And it was my dream to get you as an agricultural extension officer since 16 years old, serve the farmers and home gardeners in this country. And I feel as though I lost. I just don't know why. I mean,
Tell me something. Tell me something, Mrs. Singh. I am on the page with you. You see the home gardening thing? I understand that big times. I too do some home gardening. I always did that from since I was small. I like that. But there are people who won't have the time and all of that. But putting all that aside, we're thinking from a national perspective. I am willing to hear more about community farming or community agriculture and all of that. we have lots and lots of state land that is just wasting. I traverse the highway from Port of Spain to Le Bray and Le Bray to Port of Spain almost every day. All right? Now, I look at the expanse of land. As soon as you turn around from that, we used to call it the Nestle intersection. That's where Grand Bazaar is. As soon as you pass the Caroni River and the Carapo River cuts through that massive piece of land there that is not used. I mean, you can stay from the southbound or the northbound Uriah Butler Highway, and if you have a binoculars, you can see the airport. All that is expansive land that is not in use. We have a lot of entities like CPEP, and down in Le Bray, there's a crew that keeps around the pitch lake clean. I have no problem with that kind of thing. But what I am saying, I too know that there are a lot of young people who are willing to get some sort of employment. If agriculture, so be it, they will jump in, just how they will jump into CPEP. Not everybody like to go out the side and cut grass in a pan, but they have to do it. What I'm saying is that from the community level, that can surely assist the entire community, and by extension, what remains or whatever is in surplus can go towards NAMDEFCO, any one of these people that handle it in a national way. So all that amount of land that we see wasted, even in Le Bray where I live, there are lots of land that nobody uses. And they can, prepare and make available for the planting of food at a community level. Now, that big expanse of land that I'm telling you about, if the government should see it fit to facilitate, you've been talking about fertilizer and plants and seedlings, I want to include tools in the form of tractors, harvesters, and that kind of thing. That is what I'm looking at, where it can be really sustainable to the national level, that could satisfy a national appetite, if I should put it like that. All the land is just wasting on, partner.
Well, I don't know what to say. I can't comment on that. I mean, at the end of the day, all I tell people is that I can't give you land so much. The youth is asking me, I just tell them go Ministry of Agriculture or write a letter to the Commission of State Lands, but send a proposal. Let us see that you're honest and you want to do a good work. You want to have you don't want to steal all these things.
Yeah.
Because look those one of my posts I drop on Facebook. These people struggling, and they left us a life of crime and doing a life of gardening now. I wouldn't say which post it is, but we could really help. You see, Trinidad, we have a lot of land in this country. We have a lot of available land, but at the end of the day, we have to give respect to the Commission of State Lands and protocol to follow, and we must do what is needed to maintain our laws guided by the State Land Act. We can't break the laws. If we want to reach to this point where we can really assist youths to get into active agricultural production through state land acquisition, we must go about it the correct way. Send a letter to the Commissioner of State Lands, send a proposal to the ministry, to the minister. I can tell you this, years ago, I sent a letter to them to requesting land if the plan, because I was struggling. 4 years now, no response, and that's an entire business plan. The entire business plan. So that I ended up working for people, picking hot peppers, picking cucumber. I did a lot of labor, farm work, a lot of farm work. I always wanted my own farm, but I don't have land. But that's why I just started this online agri thing to help me. I mean, sometimes I just feel like it's a losing battle we fight, you know?
I understand what you're saying.
A losing battle.
But I certainly hope that they understand, because they're talking about, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago teaming up with Guyana. Guyana has a lot of available land. Plenty. Okay, I understand that where the region appetite for food is concerned. But I'm talking about right here in Trinidad and Tobago. It's difficult to understand why the Minister of Agriculture or the Commissioner of State Lands they see that piece of land what I'm talking about, and that is not the only area where people can do planting. That area, it provides for the planting of what we call fast crops, the tomatoes, lettuce, all kind of thing. There are other areas, all Maruga, Mayaro, all these places where I frequent sometimes, where I see a lot of land just there. I mean, it could be private property, but if the government should start some sort of initiative to encourage the private owners and all to say, okay, we're gonna lease this 5-acre plot from you, and we want the unemployed youth to get involved here. I'm sure that you are willing. I mean, you won't just give away your prowess for free. You make it. They will know that you are able to even have a team to move around to all these districts and enhance the youth where the knowledge of agri is concerned. Leave it at agri. It's difficult to know that they're not looking at what you are offering when there's a lot of available land, but they're talking about the Guyana issue as though only in Guyana this thing can happen to feed the region. If you understand what I'm saying. Trinidad, I know, brother, because I move around a lot. I've seen a lot of available lands, whether it's state or private. When the government wants a piece of land, whether it's private or not, they come in and make offers and say, we will locate you and give you this and they can't do it. So with your expertise, I find it's very confusing to know that they are not looking at what you're saying or even investigating on the job you've been doing, and by extension, how it can create employment for the youth. And like you said, who were in a life of crime will say, see me, I fed up at that jail thing and this handcuff thing and this thing. I gonna plant. And I mean, it can happen. My question is, why aren't they looking at what you're doing with all this talk about agriculture now? I remember one time the Prime Minister said, "You're too small, to plant anything like that." I remember all that. I don't want to get the political thing involved with you because I realize you're passionate about your work.
I don't want to get into politics. I'm just looking at solutions.
I know, but that is a big solution. If they should understand your passion at least, to have the young people involved in planting up lands in the community and by extension acquiring lands. To do that, I don't see a problem in that. I don't know why they're not responding to that kind of objective you have and so passionate about it.
Yeah, but I've written in the last 2 years, I've written many letters to MPs, both on both sides. I even offered some of my services free for the youths to get into agricultural production. I want to teach people, to show them you could mind your family through planting a little garden. You could mind your family and pay bills.
Yeah.
And I give up. I'm so tired of writing MPs. Nobody replies to me.
I don't know. They don't have this for that.
I don't know. So this is what I'm doing. I'm just doing this as a one-man army. People think my plant clinic is a company. It's just me working from my bedroom. I'm in my bedroom. It's my office. It's my office.
I like how you're functioning, but I think I hope that people in the right positions are listening to this program to understand what you can do to assist in cutting back, the struggles of people who are hungry, who are looking for food.
People are struggling. I'm telling you this. There are people are struggling, and I've met a lot, and there are cases. I just want to make sure that we brace for the incoming crisis. We need to protect our single mothers in this country. We need to protect our vulnerable families in this country. Everybody deserves to have food to eat. Nobody in this country should go hungry. I am telling you this. Nobody should go hungry. Nobody deserves to be hungry. My message to the MPs in this country, let me tell you, if I am an MP, the first thing I would do is set up a community garden, a food basket. I don't want anybody in my constituency to be begging for food. Not at all. If you're unemployed, come here. I put you on the land here. I'm going to teach you, right? How to plant your own food. Yeah. I think, let me tell you this. You see, I don't want to get political, but what I find is that I would like, please, MPs, let's get more involved into agricultural production at the soil level, at the community level. Yes. Let us try and work with the youth. I want us to go to the people. Let us go to the people. If you want me to become a community center, I could teach 100 people. I could teach 100 people in one shot in a community center. Knock out that. Go to that's home gardeners. I could teach 100 farmers in one community center. Knock out that. Right? I mean, it have people like me in this country. We want to make a difference. We want to help. But me, I don't want to see people go hungry. I know that feeling. But I am telling you that yes, people keep telling me you're doing a good work. You're doing a good work. Believe it or not, people from Alaska, the UK, Florida, Italy, some country called Tonga, many from Ghana, South Africa. And let me tell you this, they in South Africa, they have to walk, they go miles upon miles to reach the closest agro shop. So I just have to try to find solutions to knock out those diseases, because they begin sweet peppers, right? Bell peppers down there. People across the world is seeing my work and supporting it, surprisingly, right? And I just find that I really want to make a contribution in this country, but nobody giving me a chance.
That's right.
So, yeah.
I think you are making a contribution, and I further think you could make an even bigger contribution, but you require assistance.
I want to, but there is something. One last thing I want to say. I find it was very questionable why it is that people are getting through, and I wasn't getting through. I wrote a letter to the director of requesting an investigation. How can it be 17 years I'm waiting? Until I got feedback that my applications were found, and where it was found, it was not supposed to be there, and I don't know how it reached there. And I noted to the department, I'm not calling names. So what is the next step? What is the next step? Right? So I feel like a part of my life was cheated, was taken from me when I could have been in a position.
But you look pretty young, you know, partner. So don't just throw your hands up in the air and feel nothing is going to happen. This program, partner, could expose you to the ears and the brains of people who can assist. And I certainly hope that they are listening and feel your passion, because that is what it's all about now. I mean, the idea of the war in Ukraine has exposed it even worse, to make it know that we must plant our own food. There are available lands, state lands and private lands. The private proprietors should come on board and say, okay, I am not using that 5 acre day or that acre day. It didn't even bound to be an acre. It didn't even bound to be so much. But I know, I've been planting in a partner. I love it. And I know sometimes when I used to plant cucumbers, partner, I used to walk around the village giving away cucumber, and I couldn't consume all of that. So I would give real people things. So I understand what you're saying. The thing about it is, it irks me too, partner, to know that with all the talk about the food bill and the food bill and the food bill and the national food bill, and nobody is making a tangible effort into supplying, well, the land first of all, in preparing the land and providing the tools. Because I mean, it's not easy to walk around with a cutlass or just a little spade to cultivate 2 lots of land. That is plenty hard work. We need tools. There are people here, there are entities here that provide farming equipment. If the government is really serious about alleviating that kind of struggle with people who are hungry, let's provide community gardens. I like what you said there, partner. And provide the tools, and they can have you as the man, head of the tutors that will go around to all these communities. You can't go to all the communities all the time. You have a team that you train well, that you say, okay, you handle North, you handle South, you handle Central, I'll handle here, and we can get communities up and running. A lot of young people who are attracted to CPEP, I have to stress that, will come on board with you, partner.
Well, I'm not sure,
think,
but this program is nationwide, right?
1 second. I think that the pitch you made here today could help a lot of unemployed people become employed.
Yeah.
And I think the pitch also goes as far, in my opinion, and as Daddy Mac said, using this platform, I'm confident that those who could assist you to reach where you believe you should have been before, and to assist you to make the type of contribution you set out to make in this country, in this area.
Yeah.
They have heard you today, and I won't be surprised if you get a call to play a major role. Do you know Akanath Singh? Do you know Akanath Singh?
He used to sit. We sat in the same class together anyway.
Look at that. Look at
Have
that.
you visited him? He's the big guy in agriculture now for many years,
We
7 years.
no, he's a good guy. He's a good guy. He's knowledgeable in agriculture plants as well. He knows me well.
But he knows of your work.
Yes, so he's
He
supposed to.
knows me.
It would
He
be nice
knows
for him
me.
to assist you in the acquisition of these commodities that will eventually bring about the community gardening and by extension feed the nation.
But
But
that's
I would.
shocking.
Mm-hmm.
That's shocking to know that Avinash was in class with you. You know him well. He knows you well. He knows what you're involved in. He knows your passion in this area. That is what
But
he's
at least I
responsible
don't
for
understand.
now.
But I don't want to come across as a
No, but I'm
bashing
saying,
anybody. Eh?
no, you're not bashing anybody.
No. We are
You didn't bash anybody. You didn't come across as such either.
no.
But I'm saying it is, how I should say, surprising that if I sat in class with a colleague and that colleague is in charge nationally of the area that he knows I'm skillful in, and that's what he did too. And the drive is to try to get more people into agriculture. Then one of the first persons whom I'll turn to will be you.
Yeah.
That simplifies things. We could come up with a program to allow you to go from constituency to constituency to teach what you do.
Even
And make
advise
sure
the minister,
yeah.
even advise the people who you applied to take a look at Mr. Akanath Singh's.
That's all it takes, you know.
That's all.
And we just got to take up the phone and say, on this program, did you all talk to Mr. Singh? I said, who's Mr. Singh? You know, and what's the name? It's Mr. Akanath.
No, it means it is Akanath, like a pain and Akanath.
Ikna.
Oh,
okay.
Singh.
Sorry for mispronouncing your name.
Akanath Singh, right?
Yeah.
Right, okay. And he hasn't told a soul that this is, again, it's like Joseph in the Bible. He interpreted people's dreams. You remember that? Yeah. And he told the cupbearer, when you go back up after, because you're going to be free, your colleague will die, right? But you going to, that will call. I only make one request of you. When you reach up to the top, remember to tell the Pharaoh what I did. Remember me, so that you can help me get out. He went up there and he forgot Joseph. But then the Lord made sure the Pharaoh suffered a dream that reminded the cupbearer that the way he came out was through a dream too. And the person who interpreted it was the guy who's still in jail. Yeah. He mustered the courage and he went in the ear of the Pharaoh and told him, it has a fella in jail who told my colleague he was going to die, one who you sent to jail, and you all did kill him. He said, well, what was more remarkable? He told me I was going to be freed. And I am here now. Within the same time, he told me I was going to be freed. So since your colleagues here can't interpret the dream that is causing you so much misery, why don't call the same fella out of the jail and let him get a shot at what is bothering you? He did what he was supposed to have done a long time, but better late than never. I am saying Avinash today is in that same position, almost like the cupbearer. Because he sat with you, he knows your work. All he has, in fact, I think even better than the cupbearer, you know. He's in a position to actually say, action this and involve that man. You understand what I'm saying? Because
I don't know how it works. I don't know.
Well, I have some political experience, quite a lot. I've assisted governments to get in, and I've assisted some to come out. And I'm telling you today, Avinash sits in a position where he can make a call and tell them, involve Mr. Akanath Singh in this, put him to lead this division, and let him go around the country and give him the support he needs to help people set up agricultural gardens in their community and give them the skill so that we could solve this import bill we have. A significant part of it, 1 billion plus, we're spending on things that we could otherwise produce here for ourselves. If the people don't know how to do it, they must take the easier way out. They take their money and they go online or whatever and they buy what they want. But if they can make it here and save the money, and they get that education. Then they start to apply to save the money and get better quality products at their own hands.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
Avinash is in a position to do that. And this is
I'm scared. I don't want to cause any trouble with anybody.
I think I think that is what's keeping back the whole scenario with you, Akanath. You need a little more belly, put more fire in your belly, like Skippy would say, and approach these people so that you can offer the services that the nation requires. But we're up to 6 o'clock. I certainly hope we could have carried this on some more. I certainly hope, according to Richard, that Avinash hear you and help you, because I think that passion you're displaying there, man, oh man, this is big time stuff you're doing there. And I think
I want a classroom. I want to see 100 home gardeners sit down. I teach them one shot. Next day, I want a classroom. I want 100 farmers sit down. I want to teach them one shot. This is what I want to do. Train and help people plant their own food.
I know at a national level you'll do quite well, but we got to go to the news. Richard, Fareed.
Yeah, we come back after the news. I think we have another guest or two.
Yes, another guest in the form of
Derrick
Derrick
Charbodie. We'll take the news, one song, Daddy Ma, and we return.
No music.
Okay, straight back. Okay, all right.
Yeah. I want to thank Akanath Singh. You've been doing a fantastic job. I don't want you to throw your hands up in the air and give up. At this juncture, we need people like you. So put some fire in it. Right?
Okay, many thanks.
Thanks to you. That was Akanath Singh, agronomist, agricultural educator, and
agronomist.
Agronomist. Good. Yeah. Thanks for helping me with these pronunciations.
No problem. Right.
And he holds a degree in agriculture. So Fareed and Richard will be back right after the news. The news is just about 5 more minutes or less. So please stay close so that we can get on with the program. All right. Thank you again, Mr. Singh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Power 102 Digital.
Yeah.
We sound like home. Power 102 Digital. Streaming 24/7 on power102fm.com and on the Power 102 Digital app. Power 102 Digital. This is your news bulletin from Power 102 Digital.
With your news to 6 p.m. here on Power 102, I'm Sparkle McIntosh. Good evening. There are no confirmed cases of monkeypox in the Caribbean. This information was made public by Pan American Health Organization, World Health Organization Country Representative Dr. Erica Wheeler at the Ministry of Health's COVID-19 media briefing today. The WHO says monkeypox can be contained in countries outside of Africa where the virus is not usually detected. It says more than 100 cases of the virus have been confirmed in Europe, the Americas, and Australia. Dr. Wheeler said WHO experts are doing extensive case findings and contact tracing. Children ages 5 to 11 years old can now get their vaccination against COVID-19 in Trinidad and Tobago. The country received thousands of Pfizer vaccines from Spain this week for this venture. Minister of Health Terence Singh said the Pfizer has assured the expiry date of the over 40,000 pediatric vaccines which came into the country on Monday has been extended from April to October 2022. Families are being encouraged to start their own home garden. Emphasis should also be placed on what is being described as community gardening. The push comes from agriculture educator Akanath Singh. Speaking on the afternoon power drive here on Power 102 Digital this afternoon, Mr. Singh noted that over the past 2 years of the COVID-19 pandemic, he noticed more persons getting involved in agriculture, which is very commendable. Mr. Singh said he is willing to share his expertise with others, adding that for persons short on land space, there are ways food can still be grown when individuals are exposed to proper education and training in this area. In St. Lucia, an updated medium-term development strategy 2021 to 2026 will soon be launched to replace the 2020 to 2023 vision. The update is being conducted by the Department of Economic Development. The department says this is a proactive response to changes in St. Lucia's socio-economic environment due to the COVID-19 pandemic, also to provide measures to cushion external shocks such as rising prices due to the conflict in Ukraine, and the update will reflect the priorities of a new administration. Russian President Vladimir Putin has announced a 10% rise in the minimum wage rate and pensions in the upcoming weeks as the Russian economy faces an unprecedented wave of international sanctions. The bump will bring the minimum wage to about $250 per month and the average pension to $320, according to the Interfax news agency. President Putin also tasked government officials with increasing pay for Russian soldiers serving abroad as Russia's invasion of Ukraine enters its fourth month. I'm Sparkle McIntosh, and those were some of the stories making the news to this time here on Power 102.
Up to date and credible. Power 102 Digital. The Afternoon Power Drive. Weekdays from 4 p.m. on Power 102 Digital.
We return to the test kitchen of the Kiss Factory, where our delightfully delicious chocolate creations inventor has started experimenting again. He's taken deliciously colorful confetti and magically infused it with fun to transform it into funfetti, and pump that rainbowy magic into a delicious vanilla muffin. The finishing touch, filling it with a heart of classic Kiss cream.
It's fundamentally, fanatically, fantabulously fantastic!
Kiss Funfetti vanilla cream-filled muffins with rainbow sprinkles. Choose fun today.
May Mega Mattress Sale is on at Furniture Plus. Save hundreds on your favorite Serta, Sealy, and Therapeutic mattresses. Prices start from just $999. Available with cash and higher purchase plans. Check press and social media for details.
Well, gentlemen, I have a clip to play before Mr. Charbodie comes on, but I'm waiting for him to come on. Would you like to hear the clip before he comes on? Because his topic is, well, he's the manager of and founder of the St. James Police Youth Club, and there's Project Excel in the making. So let me play it so that you and Richard can hear it, and I can play it again when he comes. Okay, so listen up.
First, I want to tell you that what happened in Uvalde is a horrific tragedy that cannot be tolerated in the state of Texas. And there is swift action being taken by local law enforcement as well as the Texas Department of Public Safety. They obviously now know who the shooter was, and the shooter is no longer alive. Let me give you some details, and then I'll give you a summation about that. The shooter was Salvador Romas, an 18-year-old male who resided in Uvalde. It's believed that he abandoned his vehicle and entered into the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde with a handgun, and he may have also had a rifle, but that is not yet confirmed according to my most recent report. He shot and killed horrifically, incomprehensibly, 14 students and killed a teacher. Mr. Romas, the shooter, he himself is deceased and is believed that responding officers killed him. It appears that 2 responding officers were struck by rounds but have no serious injuries. The Uvalde Consolidated Independent School District Police Department is the investigating agency, and we will provide them and the city of Uvalde substantial investigative and patrol assistance. We're in the process of obtaining detailed background information on the subject, his motive, the types of weapons used, the legal authority to possess them, and conduct a comprehensive crime scene investigation and reconstruction, and identify and interview all witnesses and provide victim services and other support as needed. Victor Escalon is the Texas Department of Public Safety South Texas Regional Director. He is on the scene, and everything that can be done will be done. In addition to that, it is being reported that the subject shot his grandmother right before he went into the school. And I have no further information about the connection between those two shootings. And the subject is reported to have been a student at Uvalde High School, and is a U.S. citizen. Bottom line is this, however, and that is, when parents drop their kids off at school, they have every expectation to know that they're going to be able to pick their child up when that school day ends. And there are families who are in mourning right now, and the state of Texas is in mourning with them for the reality that these parents are not going to be able to pick up their children. Our job is multifold. First, to make sure we address exactly what happened at this crime scene, and then second, to make sure we take that information and do everything that is necessary to ensure that crime scenes like this are not going to be repeated in the future, and that we're going to be able to ensure the safety and security of our schools.
So, gentlemen, that's a clip from the shooting that took place in Texas at the school, and of course, I guess our guest will be referring his project Excel in such a way that we concentrate on the young people and try to lead them away from a life of crime. And like the first hour, we were talking agriculture to get them into something that can be of personal development and by at large stand to show the way for the younger ones who are coming from behind. So I haven't seen Mr. Charbodie as yet. I don't know, as a legal mind, an attorney at law, and with Richard holding a degree in law, I don't know if we can start a conversation about the young people in Trinidad and Tobago and what is happening these days. We can see it all the time on social media. We hear it on the television, on the electronic media, and of course we see it on the printed media. What's your take from that, if we should just start a conversation based on managing the youth and deterring them from getting into violent activities? I didn't want to use the word crimes, but it's there. Fareed, I think you should lead off here.
I think we need to bear in mind that we're living in a troubled society, and the children are a microcosm of that society. They are part of the society, and a microcosm simply meaning a fraction of the society that we all live in. What is dreadful is that when we have young people not being led by example, and when I say led by example, I mean that we have this efflorescence of criminality, violent criminality, domestic violence, murders, violent crimes, then children more or less copy what they see. What is frightening to me, David, is we are reading about a young man, 18 years old, taking up a weapon, a handgun, and I mean, how else we could put it? He eliminated or extinguished the lives of all these young people,
including his grandmother.
Including his grandmother, before he embarked on this activity. So this guy has to be a very disturbed person. And I don't mean disturbed in the sense, he has to be clinically disturbed. Something has to be functionally wrong with him. Now, I am bridging this gap. I don't want our young people in Trinidad and Tobago to adopt these sort of habits. If it is we ever get to that point where somebody turns up at a secondary school, God forbid, or a children's residence where abuse is taking place, and turn this weapon or turn on the inmates or the charges there, or the teachers or the guidance counselors, I hope that our authorities and the persons who make the decisions at the highest level in this land recognize and see what is happening in foreign, as we say. I don't want these copycat behaviors to be mimicked anyway in our system here. Now, to deal with it from the very top, America is the kind of society where the gun laws now, they're now beginning to exercise a little more restraint in terms of making access, I wouldn't say more difficult, but ensuring that the bureaucracy in getting a weapon or in acquiring a weapon is limited. But for young people like himself, and you know, the irony is this is not about Texas yesterday, you know, and 14 children. When I read the article in the Newsday, today's Newsday, they said that it was the deadliest school shooting in Texas history. And then it goes on to say in a successive paragraph, it occurred 4 years after a gunman fatally shot 10 people at Santa Fe High School in Houston area. And less than 2 weeks after, a gunman opened fire at a supermarket in Buffalo, New York, killing 10 black shoppers and workers in what officials have described as a hate crime. So this is something that is actually, there's a domino effect, it appears. And when people copy what they see, when you have young people advancing themselves to these levels, then institutionally, we need to ensure that the institutions that are mandated to look after the interests of disturbed young people, or young people who are acting not necessarily in a sociopathic way, but in an anti-social way, get the sort of access to guidance and the sort of mentoring that is required to take them out of the situation that they're in and bring them to a point where they can realign themselves, centralize themselves, and find themselves in a way that could cause them to conform to the rules, conform to authority. But to conform, you need credibility. And I'm not trying to harp on what we've been talking about in the previous weeks, but we could simply mention it and move on. When we see these residences, the children's residences, and the Sabga report and the Judith Jones report, and we're seeing things are not being done to improve or to act on the findings, then what we're doing is creating a volcanic reaction. We're creating a bottleneck that is going to explode down the road if it doesn't explode in our lifetime. Or if it doesn't explode in the foreseeable future, it's going to explode at some point. This can't be happening. These rumblings and these build-ups cannot be happening below the surface, and it doesn't manifest itself above ground level at any point in time. So having laws in place, laws don't change anything. Regulations that come with the provisions of legislation doesn't change anything. Implementation does. And implementation would mean to say that in the school system, teachers are at one level. Mr. Charbodie would come, and I'm sure he's going to expand what the police are doing at the police youth clubs. I remember growing up, and the police youth club was very, very active in those days. I'm sure that they never ceased to exist as an entity, but it's in times of crisis that their function become highlighted. I am hoping that we could have more NGOs and more church bodies, interest groups, fellowship groups, engaging young people. Because we need to diffuse. We need to diffuse young people in terms of whatever they are fusing to at this time.
I mean, Cub Scouts and Girl Guides and Sea Scouts and things. Those are disciplinary entities that were, part and parcel of all communities. I passed through that. That was fun, but that engaged a lot of disciplinary measures as young people. Now, Mr. Charbodie is with us. Let me say hi, welcome, unmute your microphone and join us, please, sir. If you're hearing us.
Hello, good day, Mr. Charbodie.
Yes. I'm seeing him there. Yeah, but I think all those disciplinary arms of the community. Yes, he's there with us, sir.
Yeah.
Good evening, sir. Yes. Welcome to the after work time or the afternoon power drive here on Power 102 Digital. We are hearing you.
Good evening, all.
Yes. Richard Norrie is here with me, and our co-host, attorney at law Farid Ali, is also here with me. So let me introduce you to these gentlemen, and let's chat for the remaining of the hour.
All right. So again, I'll ask Farid to lead off, and I'll jump in as we go along.
Mr. Charbodie, how are you doing, sir? You're good? All is well with you? Maybe you could put on your video. So if you're okay with putting on your video, we could
turn on
see
your
you in
camera.
addition to hearing your camera. Whilst you're doing that, it's a pleasure to have you. Richard Nori and I are here with our producer David, and we want you to share some of your wisdom with us. Are you there with us in terms of you hearing us? Mr. Charbodie. Well, Richard, while he's tuning in there, we could perhaps, while he's blending in with us in the interim, rather than we
Yeah, you guys can
I think he's on now.
Oh, he's here. I'm seeing him now. Good afternoon, sir. How are you going? Officer Charbodie, Derrick Charbodie. I'm seeing you now, but we're not hearing you. You need to put your audio on. We're seeing the video. Your video is with us. How are you doing? You're good? All is well with you?
Well,
turn your microphone.
Well, I thank God for small. Thank you.
Okay, great. It's good to see you. So tell us something about yourself. Tell us about the work that you've been doing through the years. Just a small outline, so the viewing public and the listening public will have an idea as to who Derrick Charbodie is. I know you will be involved in some specific activity now, but this would not have been your first inroad and foray into the work that you're doing.
Seems like we lost him again. I think he's having internet problems. Yes, he's back with us now. Let's see. All right. Yes. If you unmute your microphone, we'll hear you loud and clear. Great. There you are. Fareed.
You're there with us now.
Very kind.
Good. My name is Fareed Ali.
Okay, Mr. Charbodie, let us try it with the camera off because you may be suffering bandwidth problems. Take off the camera.
Take the camera off. You might be assisted via the back. Yeah.
Yeah, the camera is off.
Okay.
Okay, we're hearing you.
Right. Wow.
Much better.
Okay. Yeah. We have some audio now. We're hearing you. We want to welcome you to the program. It's a pleasure to have you. Perhaps we could get straight into the discussion. Tell us something about yourself and the work that you've been doing, not just now, but through the years. A small outline as to how long you've been in the service and what sort of initiatives you've been engaging in through the years and what you're doing now.
Well, approach that people
Oh, we lost him again. I think this
David, maybe what we could suggest to him is that if it is he comes off the link altogether and try to come back on, maybe it helped.
Or that's something you try that too. If that doesn't look, let him call in. We talk to him as though he's a caller then.
Yeah.
David, see if you get his number and call him.
Okay, let me try that.
Yeah. I'll mute and hold on in the meantime. I saw we attempted.
Charbodie, I'm going to call you on the phone, right?
Yeah, well, that's it. So I'm just going to tell our listeners and viewers that
we
are talking to Mr. Derrick Charbodie, but we're clearly having some serious internet concerns, and it wouldn't be able to go on as we had hoped. So what we are now seeking to do is to call him via phone and see if we could have the conversation in such a way. So just bear with us a few seconds. We are talking gun violence. This is a gentleman who has done a lot in this country, I'm told so far, about, I think it's police youth camp and all those types of things to remove youngsters away from the life of crime and participating in activities that involve illegal arms and ammunition and so on. We saw happen in Texas and what happened in the other place just the other day, and which happens in America. Buffalo, almost a sort of a normal thing where somebody decided to just get
Yes, I have him on the phone now, Richard.
Right, so here we go. Ferries.
Oh,
Mr. Charbodie, good afternoon. How are you going? Yeah, all is well with you?
well, for a full-time present, good afternoon, yes.
Right. The connection is wonderful now. We were having some connectivity issues with you before, but you're right there with us now.
Amen, amen.
Yeah. So talk to me. Our position is that you have been involved in working with young people for a number of years. Tell us some of the work that you've done, just a small outline so the viewers would know who they're talking to. We know who you are, but our viewing public and our listening public might want a little background. So tell us what you've been doing with yourself through the years and what your goals and your initiatives were and are now.
Certainly. I'm the manager and founder of the St. James Police Club Project Excel. The Police Club was established in 1992. We are one of the elder youth clubs. We are celebrating our 30th anniversary. We have some outstanding initiatives. We have established the first suspension center in Trinidad and Tobago. And when I say suspension, I mean that children who has been suspended from school would have come down to the center to occupy the time constructively. It was born out of many cases where children were committing some very unfortunate offenses and they were naive to the offenses. We have established the first proactive approach to crime prevention in terms of using culture, sports, PAN as a vehicle. We have a homo club. We have our Men as Mentors program where we give young men a platform to sit down and vent and to share some of their challenges and it is just creating a friendly space. We have a parent body. We feel without working with the parents, you would not be successful. So we have established what we call a parent body. We have established an empowerment session where young people learn to make choices, conflict resolution, anger management, emotional intelligence. And there's a connectivity with the police and the youth. So we have redefined ourselves. They're not seen as only to arrest, lock up, and charge, but we are very concerned about their development. We are concerned about, some of the toxic environment that they come from. And police understand that some of the reasons why young people are committing offenses, they are the sum total of a greater problem. So hence the reason we have established that because our club is a 30-year-old club, we have founded an alumni. So young people who have been members of the police club and are now in the police service, the army, the coast guard, they have their own private business. We applaud them to come back and to share what the youth club has done for them. Jam Melody is a past member of the youth club. Jason Williams, JW, is a past member of the youth club. Lieutenant Celestin, I can call so many wonderful young people who have gone on to do, really I was proud that, we envisage that is the way to go. Youth, changing youth. And we feel that is the power of fighting crime, the proactive approach. We're not waiting for young people to commit offenses. And of course, if parents come to me and they're inclined to ask for help, then we do some intervention. I have a management board committee. Pastor Dutton is on that committee. Mr. James Devers. We have a parent council. We have a youth executive body. So the young people are not left out into decision making. And of course, we have several stakeholders who have been doing absolutely wonderful work with the police, and we want to salute them. Power 102 is one of those what you call flagship media house that has continued to promote the good work of policing, the gospel of the police service. And we would like to thank Power 102 for seeing and understanding and appreciating that this is the way to go, a proactive approach. We are about to launch a program called I Am My Brother's Keeper. So we are asking all media houses, whether they're opening and they're closing, to say, I am my brother's keeper, and you should be one too. So it's all part of our trust, it's all part of fixing Trinidad, it's all part of being patriotic, and it's all part of saying that this is my country, I love my country, and we can fix it. All stakeholders on board.
I'm very, very thankful and grateful that we have people like yourself in the society who is giving of themselves, and not just giving of themselves today. You've been involved in this exercise for decades.
Yes.
Clearly, it's a passion that you have and a passion that you share. Now, let's tie this into where we are now in terms of our young people. When I look at the newsprint, and I'm not trying to be negative here, but I'm just trying to set a background to where we are. The Trinidad Express carried an article on the 12th of May indicating that 6 out of 134 gangs are behind most of the killings in Trinidad and Tobago. And then it went on to identify that in 2021, we have 134 gangs. And they were portraying the membership. In 2022, gang membership accounted for 1,462 persons. In 2020, 1,056 persons. In 2019, 2,484 persons. Now, having said that, organizations like yourself help to address issues that touch and concern children. Clearly, the people that and the young persons that fall under your control and your helping hand and your tenure, you're able to guide them away from finding themselves enveloped in the wrong elements or with the wrong elements and involved in gang activity, involved in criminality. Your organization is, and this is where we're at. You have seen the results over 30 years. You have an alumni of persons who would have gone on to join the security services in this country, national security forces. Where do you see our school violence at this time, and what can be done? Because everybody can't come and join the police youth camp. What can schools and communities and parents do in reaching young people? Because you have been doing that. What can you share in terms of what skill set that you have that you think that parents could emulate, teachers could emulate? How do you suggest, what are your suggestions in terms of reaching young people in the manner that you have been able to do so?
Well, first, thank you very much. And I want to put for the record that we have been very tardy in terms of presenting an alternative. We have been very good in terms of talking about the problem, and even to some degree talking about the solution. But the delivery component, the implementation component, we have been very tardy in that. There has been too much red tape and bureaucracy in terms of the delivery to the service to youth. To get a table tennis board, you have to get 3 copies, 3 duplicates, then you have to send it to one downstairs and upstairs. There's too much of red tape, and while all that is going on, our young people are suffering. There are absolutely wonderful programs on the ground, and those programs need to be funded, and it needs to be decentralized. Our suspension program, they're supposed to have suspension program at a national level, a suspension in South, a suspension program in the West, suspension program in it. If your suspension program is doing justice in Western Division, why is it taking too long to replicate or to duplicate or to have these excellent suspension programs at a national level? Our parenting body. Every school must have a parent body so that we can speak to the parents, because the parents are an important component if you are to work with young people. You can't work with young people without the parents. It's absolutely imperative that parents need to have a greater appreciation. They need to be tooled. They need to be given more tools, especially today. Times are different. Young people are, as you know, the new parent has become the social media and has emerged as something that young people are now prone, listen to, they got advice from, and physically the parent who's supposed to be at the home has removed themselves, and as a result of that, we are suffering the price today. You look at young people and you look at so many wonderful programs that has been shelved because of poor funding. We had a program called Project Excel, teaching young kids to excel without using drugs. That has been shelved, no funding. We had a program called DEAR, Drug Abuse Resistant Education Program. That has been shelved, no funding. We had a program called GREAT, Gang Resistance Education Training Program, shelved, no funding. So we have to be consistent. We have to make sure that these programs that we have, these initiatives that we have in school, if it's doing good work, then continue to fund it, allow it to expand. If I have a pirogue with 2 workers and I'm putting in so much of fish, and I'm saying, give me a larger vessel, give me more workers, so I'll have a greater reach. You follow? So it is the question of supporting, funding, expanding. We know that volunteerism, we need to promote a sense of volunteerism, the value. People need to volunteer in time. Those teachers who have been retired, principals who have been retired, can add value to the school system. We need out of school. There are some children who are not coping. They don't know how to spell, they don't know how to read, they don't know how to write. Literacy is one of the biggest problems in terms of violence and gang. Before we discuss gun and before we discuss violence, we must discuss our literacy. Children cannot read, they cannot write, and therefore they're in Form 3. I have members of my youth club in Form 3, and they don't even recognize what is an additional sign. Mine, as I say, are you serious? They say, yes, sir. So these children are not functioning in school, they're just going through, they're being very disruptive, and as a result of that, then they fall into the wrong hands. They break in period, they're not in a class, and then you follow, they sit at the back of the classroom. So therefore, our education system needs to be revamped, they need to be revised, they need to be tailored, because some children are late starters, and you cannot tell a child because you're 14 and you can't read and write yet. That is not the way to go. So it is absolutely important that children provide the necessary support. There are young people suffering from education and disabilities. They need to be tested. It's gone with the days when you tell a child to dance and put in F on the paper. Put in F and tell a child to fail is a death sentence to them. But if you put F means fantastic, show them that, okay, there's room for improvement. I'm seeing a little potential. You have to plant seeds that can give young people the impetus to know that all isn't lost. Young people are frustrated. There's no love in the home. You ask young people, well, don't ask for the daddies. Fathers are no longer around. We have a lot of males. We don't have a lot of men. We don't have a lot of fathers. Fathers need to find their rightful role, so that in coming up with solutions, we need to have it short-term, medium-term, and long-term. Your programs like yours, need to expand it. It needs to allow young people a platform where they can speak, talk, chat, and share. We need to apply more listening skills. Young people are speaking to us. Every gun that they hold, every gang that they belong to, every young girl that they run away, they're saying that they're not loved, they're not cared for. When you go home and you see the toxic environment these children come from, it is a sad day. So I will appeal to probably the powers that be. What happened to MyLab? MyLab is an excellent program. Let's expand it. My Path, excellent program. Civilian Conservation Corps, let's expand it. I heard the Minister of Youth is on record saying that the girls' camp will be. Amen. Very good, 10 points. But I have a girls' camp not only in El Dorado, have one in South, have one in Central. There's no time to talk the funding. Start ensuring that activities, projects, and programs are there so young people can access. Because the gunman and the gangster is accessible. He's at the corner and he's chatting with them and he's having a discussion with them. And we're losing them to the unfortunate elements. So we need to appreciate the fact that all isn't lost. We need to turn our minors into plus. Support the police clubs. There are over 100 police clubs. Let us maximize the use of these officers who are going beyond the call of duty. There are some people on programs running and saying police have no right doing social work. Well, I would like to differ. A component of police duties must be social work. I want to salute the magistrate court and the court that deals with juvenile. Before they even seek to charge or, claim that the child is guilty, the magistrate is asking them for a file. I would like to find out more about this child, the home. Parents must make to account that child is a minor, and parents must make to account. And once we start addressing all these different set of factors, you will see Trinidad is fixable. Your role, my role, everybody coming on board and having a great appreciation for my child is your child and your child is my child, and we must be our neighbor's keeper. And when you pray for your child, make sure and pray for the neighbor's child too, instead of putting him out. That is not helpful right now. We are saying that good education makes you shine, but good discipline makes you glitter. We tell young people that pressure makes you precious. When mommy fails, daddy fails, I would not be a fail in life. We let them know that their attitude will determine their attitude. Those are things you tell young people. You encourage them. You empower them. You give them a sense of awe. You move them from a sense of hopelessness to hopefulness. You see the spark in their eyes. I'm not saying that some young people need to be arrested. There are some people committing some serious offenses, and probably we have lost a generation or two. But why do I use my 30 minutes on this radio to be a prophet of doom? I prefer to use the 30 minutes to enlighten and to share some good news so that people will be encouraged to know that Trinidad is still a beautiful place and we need to rescue our children.
But Mr. Derrick is Charbodie?
Yes, sir.
Right. How could sharing the good news, I'm starting from where it ended, and being a prophet of positivity instead of negativity, and I'm in agreement with you, that's the better way to take it. If it could help one person, then you would have done your job. Yeah. But how only concentrating on what is positive could help arrest the situation? I don't think that's what you're saying, but how much you think it could help nonetheless by not calling out what needs to be called out, but only focusing on what is a good part of what is being done and how we can move forward?
Excellent point. And in my opening, I did indicate that we must not be naive and we must not pretend that we have a serious problem in our hands with young people, choices they are making, and the delinquent parents. We have to accept that. We have to accept that some parents have failed our children. We have to accept that the home is no longer called a home. And that is one of the truths. And we must not try to couch it and call it as it is. There are some homes you can't call home anymore. There are too much of delinquent parents. There are parents who are not taking up their rightful role. And these parents need to be held accountable. Young people must learn about choices and consequences. I agree on that. That it cannot be a package that is only speaks about, a lot of things that gives young people the impression that they have reached the age of accountability and therefore they can point at other people for their shortcomings. That is not the case. When I go and I speak to young people, and if you have the benefit of seeing me lecture, I am very graphic with young people. I'm straightforward with them. I show them pictures of the so-called leaders, or the leaders died, or the so-called role models, the community leaders, how they end up dead. I let them know that there's no life in a gang. After 18, you're dead for sure. But if you join a police club, and that's why we have a program called Join a Club, Not a Gang. If you join the police club, if you join a positive group, there is life, there is, at least you can center yourself around somebody that is positive. So it has to be a language that we speak to our young people. I am telling you straightforward, this country needs a boot camp. We need some shock therapy because there are young people who have gone up to yesterday. Before yesterday, I went to speak to a young man and the young man is telling the parents straight, Mommy and Daddy, I don't care about you. I write it dead. And when you check on the phone, only gun, only gangster, only... I had to ask the parents to excuse for a little while so I could have a serious session with them. I said, you hear what you're saying? You hear what you're confessing? Your parents love you dearly. You know, so that I agree with you that there has to be a balance and there has to be, you know, a conversation with young people, but we have to also listen to them. Young people feel that we're not listening to them and therefore they're currently wilderness and unfortunately they're turning their plus into minus.
We're about 22 years now into this new century of great advancement. Many things have come and helped the world advance technology. Look at how we can talk today online, Zoom. COVID came and gave the world a blessing because more people know about software and Zoom and Teams and all these things now. Companies are better off today because of COVID. They realize they can even cut staff and have people work from home and, if you know what I mean, and still manage effectively. The one thing in our country COVID has not assisted with, nor the great advancement that we have witnessed so far in this century, is the pushback on crime. What new idea, Mr. Charbodie, do you think we need to apply to our society to help push back this scourge of crime and criminality throughout the country?
The first thing we need to address, and I agree with you, we have done well in technology. We know, I mean, they say it is amazing. I have a 13-year-old son. I'm not in the driver's seat. I have to ask my 13-year-old son to do this for me. Come on, fix this. What is this going on here? And it is amazing to see my 13-year-old son take phone, take a laptop. You know, they are in the driver's seat when it comes to technology. But just for a little while, what about the human development component? What about social grace? What about good morning, good afternoon, excuse me? What about, you know, being respectful and having respect for adults, having people mentor you? What about the adults being more exemplars to the young people? What is happening in our community? Who are now the role models? Who are taking over and speaking to our children? Who are having a conversation with our children? The human development, that part, I think that we have missed the bus when we do not create a platform. Everybody sits around a table and everybody's on their phone. Parent WhatsApping a child that come downstairs to eat. Take off the technology. Let us have a human discussion. How was your day? What happened in school today? The first police officer in a child's life is a parent. And if you don't know how to police your child, my mother will shop in Rosary Boys without I knowing, because she had a relationship with the teacher. And in that relationship, I couldn't go and cry wolf because the parents know that teachers were acting parents between the hours of 8 and 2:30. How many parents could say they have a relationship with the teachers? How many parents, in fact, go down to the school? In fact, if they're going down to the school, you're seeing what's going on now. The adults, an example, the fighting, they're involved in. You check all these videos. Some of the parents are involved in this nonsense. So that we need to go back to teaching our children and showing them social grace and the human, why they're here for a purpose. You have a microwave in your house, Ella, and you know the purpose of that microwave. You have a fridge or stove, and you understand the purpose. There are young people who don't understand their purpose. They feel they're just here. They just, you know, they're just part of 1.4 million. They don't live with a purpose anymore. They wake up. They don't contribute. And we just start very early. We have been reactive and not proactive. You only wait until murders, crime, and then we have a round table discussion. Then we have a panel discussion. Then there's some kind of findings, then some document. You need to ask, my brother, how many research was done on youth violence in Trinidad and Tobago? And you'll be amazed to know how many blue paper, red paper, and green paper on youth and violence. We are not doing this for the first time. However, young people are now seeing the gun as a weapon of choice, and that is unfortunate.
Did you see the report on the SABGA's report? It was on the abuse that children suffered, those are
I
criminal stuff.
I heard about it. I just as you, I had the benefit of hearing about it on radio. I heard Sadgar spoke to one or two media, and I read one or two articles on the Express about some of his findings, etc., etc. Very unfortunate, sad day, and that has been going on for years, decades.
Yeah.
So you take a child out of a home, you take a child out of a home from a toxic environment, and you put a child in a home. That child becomes more scared, and then afterwards you bury them. So it's like the child has been set up. So the home that is prepared to help them, unfortunately, the home, you know what's going on.
It's a bad situation worse.
Yeah. Thank you.
And then that child is released on society.
That's right.
And they expect that child, as a young adult, to be productive and disciplined.
Any nation that cannot take care of its women, its children, its elderly, the geriatric, and especially able, cannot be called a nation. That is our number one priority. That women, children, the elderly, the geriatric must feel a sense of not only by laws, but also by the community and by the things we do and by our body language, our kinetics. We need to go back to that place where we felt that, and unfortunately we have become so modern that we have lost it.
Based on what you have said there, we have come extremely close to losing our nation status.
Well, it appears so. You see what happened? Forgive me.
Yeah.
I live by faith. I live by faith. Faith is the substance of things, hope for the evidence of things unseen. I have seen some young people in my club transformed, and that has given me the emphasis to say all isn't lost. I think if we just continue to live by faith, if we have good men, strong men who will step up to the plate and say, I would want to be part of the solution. And there are good people. There are good people. We go on radio and then we give the impression that all isn't lost. But there are people doing excellent work on the ground, and they need to be applauded, they need to be encouraged, and they need to be given the funding. Anytime you put negative news in the front of a paper or in the front of you are sending the wrong message to young people. You're telling young people to be negative is to be seen. So the young man who is doing something positive and doing something constructive, he realized that the man who is doing something negative gets all the attention. So we are sending the wrong message to young people. Yes, we have crime. Yes, we should be concerned, but we must be balanced. That there are young people who are doing excellent work. They are law-abiding, and they continue to make a contribution to the nation good.
Mr. Derrick Charbodie, before handing back over to Mr. Fareed, about 7 minutes ago, let me thank you for doing a fantastic job over the years. And I'll go as far as to say, if this country didn't have people like you doing what you do in it, however bad we are today, it would have been significantly worse. Yes. So I want to thank you and I want to ask you to continue to do what you do and see how many more children you can get into those police youth camps and everything else, and help to instill discipline in them and let them develop a different vision and focus for the country and how they could apply meaningful things to this country to help it move forward into the future. Thank you so much again. Mr. Fareed Ali.
Mr. Charbodie, you were saying earlier that the education system, I don't want to misquote you, but on some level, this is my language, on some level, the education system has failed some of these young people.
Yes.
My experience is, and I taught at secondary school level before I ventured into law. My experience is a lot of young people need to be diagnosed and at a very early level in their existence. And when I say diagnosed, you need to when they enter the school system, you need to do two things. You need to do an aptitude test to find out where they are educationally. And then when you ascertain where they are educationally in terms of their literacy skills and their ability to process information, and at what levels and at different levels that they are, then you could progress them moving forward. So sometimes I believe in a streaming system. That was my experience. Apart from that, I also believe that there are a lot of damaged young people out there. And the quicker we diagnose these damaged minds, we can work on healing the mind or putting systems in place to heal the mind. Now, that doesn't mean to say it doesn't apply to older people, adult people. We're talking young people here.
Yes, yes.
In your experience, are you of the view that that diagnostic testing is something that we should proactively, the ministry should proactively get involved in, or do you think that that is premature and precocious?
I would like you to go to the head of the class. I want to applaud you. In fact, I will go further. SCA need to be get rid of. It doesn't make sense. It is not useful. Taking thousands of children and putting them in a room one day and assessing them, it's counterproductive. It is not helpful, and most of the children would not be able, even those who sometimes are very bright, you hear the sweating of the hands, they're frightened. So many things happen on that day, that SCA day. We need to have, as you pointed out, ongoing assessment. You start to assess the child very early. When you assess the child in Form 1, you continue to assess the child in Form 2. So you have that ongoing assessment so that you will appreciate the level of development of the mind and by extension what is happening. In concert with the home, of course, so that you will understand and appreciate the home they're coming from, the environment they're coming from, and you relate that to why the child is a functional student or whether a child is not functioning. We must stop calling children at risk. That's the next thing too. What is at risk? At risk probably the home they come from, probably things. But children only become and labeled by virtue of how you label them. I would call young people under my care children with promise. I prefer to plant that seed. That you plant a seed and you see grow and it blossom into something beautiful. So I agree with you. And SCA is the worst nightmare. The faster they get rid of SCA, 11 and 12 and 13-year-old, it is unfortunate, it is unfair, and we need to address that.
Wow.
Having said that, what about that other aspect? Do you believe that there are people out there with perhaps young people with perhaps the demonstrating antisocial behavior that could be, we could entrap that individual from very early, and when I say entrap, address that antisocial behavior from the age of 12, 13, 14, before it evolves into something congenital and endemic and problematic to the extent that, we have to spend millions now to bring them, realign them and get them back to where they ought to have been, when we could have dealt with the problem in its growing stages, when it was an embryo, not wait until it evolves into something that we can't control. In your experience, you would have come across situations like that. You would have been able to arrest a habit before it encompasses the individual.
We tell parents, bring the child very early into the club, 5, 6, 7-year-old, let us set a treat, work with the child, do not wait until the child starts to show antisocial behavior. Let's work with them very early. The early childhood school system probably is an excellent place to start, where we continue to test children, seeing they're antisocial, and work and provide all the different psychoanalytic systems that children need. Children need help. Young people need the type of psychosocial help. There's also a spiritual component too. People don't want to talk about God. They don't want to talk about God in the child's life. But when you move God out of the development of a child's life, then what is happening? That child is empty. So there is a spiritual component that I would like to also recommend. Showing them the fruits of the Spirit, the love of God, and showing them how kind and the different sort of important characteristics that make up on who you are and where you come from, and God has a purpose for you. He has designed you to come into the world, not to hold no gun, not to be no gangster, but He is a doctor, a lawyer, a mechanic. No, God has blessed you with 8 fingers and 2 thumbs to do agriculture and not to hold a gun. You know, we have something called we got drum and cover gun. Simple things we need to tell young people that will ignite and allow their appetite to be transformed into something positive. And we are our worst nightmare sometimes, and we need to understand is sometimes we are sincere, but sincerely wrong. And you made an excellent point. It has to be done very early. It has to be consistent. It cannot be no 9 days, and we need to do it in a way where there's reporting, where there's testing, and by extension, there is some level of transparency.
Well said.
And where there's aftercare, where we could follow up on them and monitor their progress and incorporate them in working with younger people who are in this, who were at their stage sometime before.
Thank you. You know what I mean? And this is a rhetorical question. All these children who were sexually interfered with in these homes and who were beaten or whatever, where are these children now? These are adults, and probably these are adults with children, and we don't know if these adults were cared for, if they're finding necessary help, if they're sent to their service. What is going on? I'm saying that's why there is a saying that people who hurt others. But if you don't know how to handle your own hurt, because we get hurt sometimes, we feel hurt, but there is destructive anger and constructive anger. I mean, they show young people how they can vent their anger in a constructive way. I mean, it's like through PSA, through public service announcements, through poetry, through spoken word, through rapping. We need to be very innovative in how we speak and communicate and engage our young people through all the different set of art forms.
Mr. Charbodie.
Yep.
We want to thank you for making yourself present. We look forward to having you again in the future. We hope that there could be more officers like you out there. I'm sure that they are, but they need to present themselves in the way that you have. I could end by saying this, meaning myself. Richard will address you after. I remember when you used to come to secondary schools and speak. I as a young person, a teenager back in the early 90s, would have sat through your classes and so on. So I've been experiencing you not now, but a long time. So it's good to see that you're in good health. I remember you when you had a full head of hair. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
And
Well
I
done.
too remember Mr. Charbodie came to my school. I too was an infant when he was talking. When he tried to say, come on, I just joking. Good job, Mr. Derrick Charbodie again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
We need to bring you on again because this is such a meaningful topic, really.
Should be
You are dealing with something that today is the worst thing that is happening to our country. Because it is related crime and criminal activities in this country, which is completely out of control. And it would have been worse had it not been for people like you and the good job you all have been doing. So we need to talk about it some more. You need to be on the platform here and perhaps other platforms as well, sharing that message of saying how you view children. Not children at risk. What you said? Children what?
Children with promise.
Children with promise. You need to be able to use more platforms to share that piece of message alone, to let children know they're children with children of promise, children with promises, to help move this country forward, not at-risk children. From the time you say that, you're sowing a negative seed in their mind, you're making them feel if they didn't get what they want today, they had it right because they're at risk to do something silly because they already see themselves as children who are at risk, and at-risk children could do anything sillily at any given moment. So when you say that they are children of promise, that is a much better, that was a touching moment. Well expressed, Mr. Charbodie, Derrick, and we'll bring it back on definitely in the not too distant future. I'll talk to the producer here, Daddy Mac. I'll talk to Mr. Ali and other management to bring it back on for us to discuss this some more. The country needs a lot of help. Where the ministers and commissioners and others failed, you may be able to assist in filling that gap that remains so open and so much negativity is flowing through that opening. But we can fix it. Thank you again. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Let me apologize to Daddy Mac for taking him all the way.
That's okay. That's okay. He's backing right up my alley. I do that all the time with some of the young people in my area.
But then could we give Mr. Charbodie the final word as we close?
Yes.
Well, I would just like to firstly thank 102 FM. It is truly an honor. I thank you very much for giving me a platform where I can speak, educate, and empower. I thank you for the men on the platform. It's good to have men on the platform. I'm not saying anything out like about our women or women doing wonderful work, but it's an honor to have men of stature. I trust that we were very informative, and for those who wish to access my services, you can contact me at 632-6084. We need all the help down at the center. We need food. We need any assistance. We have children come to Homo Club, nothing to eat. So whatever small contribution you can make, God bless you.
Give the number one more time.
Yes, give us the number again.
632
Yeah.
6084.
60.
This is Big Up Latin.
632
Yeah.
60
Yeah.
84.
87?
84.
84. Nice. Thank you. I got it. I got it.
Right?
Yeah.
And those who wish to volunteer at time, give me a call. We would love to have you on board. It's all about transforming and keeping young people. And then know that all is close. And blessings to 102 and the wonderful team.
Thank you
so much for that, Charbodie. Yes. I appreciate that big times. I do a lot of work with young people. All the time.
Yeah.
My grandsons are there on top of the game. I'm happy about that. I have 4 other little boys that I try my best with all the time. So
Daddy Mac, stay with them.